Aloha and good morning, everyone. It is Tuesday, November 21st, 2024, and the time is now 9:12 a.m. Will the Committee on Planning and the Economy meeting please come to order? I would like to welcome committee members Okimoto, Say, and Wire, and welcome Councilmember Tupola. Pursuant to Hawaii Revised Statute Section 92-3.7, this meeting will be conducted as a remote meeting by interactive conference technology with the following procedures in effect for the meeting. Members of the public will be allowed to provide oral testimony on all items on the agenda when each item is taken up in two ways: in person in the council chamber and remotely via teleconference or phone. Before testifying, each person shall state their name for the record. Each speaker will be limited to a 1-minute presentation per item. All persons who register to testify in person will be called upon first. When your name is called, please come up to the testifier podium. Persons who did not register will be given an opportunity to offer testimony after the registered testifiers. Once in-person testimony has concluded, I will proceed to the remote testifiers. When I call your name or the last 3 digits of your phone number, please follow the prompts to unmute. HRS Section 92-3.7 requires that all votes at a remote meeting be conducted by roll call, unless unanimous. Therefore, if any objections are noted, I will call for a roll call vote. Written testimonies, including the testifier's address, email address, and phone number, will be available to the public as described on the posted agenda. As a courtesy, please turn off or silence all cell phones for the duration of this meeting. Thank you. Moving to agenda item number 1 for action. Resolution 24-243. This resolution will reconvene the City Council's Agricultural Development Task Force that was previously established by Resolution 0488 CD1 and amended by Resolution 0831. Membership will consist of no more than 9 and no less than 5 members with no term limits. Councilmember Tupola and I co-introduced Resolution 24-243, which would reconvene the Honolulu City Council's Agricultural Development Task Force to foster the growth and enhancement of agricultural activities on Oahu. The reconvening of the Agricultural Task Force, which is a panel of 5 to 9 members, was in part of a response to numerous agricultural stakeholders who testified during the consideration of Bill 64, 2023, FD1 CD1, relating to land use regulations. Members, please note that we listed on an agenda addendum a proposed CD1 version of the resolution, which I submitted. A summary of the amendments was also listed. The CD1 version of the resolution does the following. It establishes 5-year staggered term limits for all appointed members and updates priority focus areas of the task force to include food security, including access to locally grown foods, long-term food system resilience, and emergency food preparedness, economic incentives, including taxes, grant programs, and other funding sources, support for operations, including workforce housing, infrastructure coordination, biosecurity, invasive species and pest mitigation, theft prevention, supply chain coordination, and other operational needs, land use policy, including zoning, land use permitting, and infrastructure requirements, demand-side improvements, including market access, institutional purchasing, and procurement policies, and lastly, research and education, including data gathering, analysis, and reporting. Before I call on the administration, I would like to take public testimony. Proceeding first with in-person testimony in the council chamber. Clerks, do we have any testifiers for this item?
Chair, yes, we do.
Is this in person? First, I'd like to invite Earl Yamamoto.
Morning, Chair, Vice Chair, members of the committee, Earl Yamamoto for Sharon Hurd, Department of Agriculture. The department stands in strong support of this resolution and the formation or the reconvening of the Agricultural Development Task Force, with the single recommendation that we all know task forces have a lot of people on them, but it's kind of like herding cats. You need someone there to make sure that whatever is discussed over a long period of time is somehow are recorded and not, not left to one's memory over an extended period of time, especially with something as diverse as the responsibilities enumerated for this resolution. So we recommend that staff be presented from either legislative or executive branches and help out the task force to become as functional as they can. Thank you.
Thank you so much for your testimony. Because this is a council task force as opposed to administrative task force, I will take your recommendations to heart and talk with Chair Waters to see what kind of resources could be made available within the purview of the City Council, because it is the Office of Council Services that is going to make sure to document everything, but we have the purview of the clerk's office as well. I do know that the Office of Economic Revitalization, Office of Climate Change for the Mayor's Office is deeply interested in helping, and it's going to be a strong collaborative effort. But thank you for testifying. I wanted to also welcome Vice Chair Cordero to the meeting. The next testifier is Taylor Campbell, followed by, is this Mariah Yoshizu. Okay, so Taylor.
Good morning. I'm Taylor Campbell, and I'm speaking on behalf of the Waimanalo Agriculture Association, or WAA. We're in strong support of the task force to provide necessary representation for farmers to help preserve agriculture in Hawaii. The process of Bill 10 to Bill 64 was really hard on the farmers, and a task force would have been really helpful throughout this process. We have 3 considerations. One, that the majority of the task force be members that are actively farming or ranching. 2, that the members come from different areas across the island because agriculture differs between districts. And 3, that water access be an added area of responsibility for the task force. Access to water is one of the most important factors for the success of farming or ranching, whether it be agriculture water, fresh water, or county water. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Members, any questions? If not, Councilmember Shea.
Just one question, which has really bothered me throughout my career. I have just one question, which has really bothered me in regards to agriculture. Will the farmers take the responsibility of maintaining the intake systems, the ditches that irrigate these particular agricultural lands? In the old days, the farmers did all of that. My grandfather did that on the island of Kauai, the area of Honolulu. I still recall the days when every summer we used to go up 2 or 3 times a year to clean the ditches and the intake so that the system can come down into the valley of Honolulu. I don't see farmers be getting into that particular area. And number 2, you have to tell the state, even the Water Commission, the allocation of water on behalf of agriculture. You know, where is the priorities of what the farmers really want, and if the legislature is listening or not? That is the concern. And in closing, you know, I truly believe in ag, but my personal feeling is maybe I'm thinking out of the box on behalf of the council members and the residents of Oahu. Shouldn't we just go vertical? Vertical and a closed cycle farming. You don't get your hands dirty. A case in point is what is happening as an example on Lanai. Where does Mr. Ellison get his energy? Solar. And that energy is used to propagate his crops that are in the greenhouses. Correct me if I'm wrong. And finally, you know, water is a major issue, and I don't have the answers, but I would have thought the state of Hawaii would have taken the lead in supporting farmers of the present and the future. So in closing, I'm happy that we have this task force, but we will implement the recommendations of the task force in the out years. And that's the point I bring up today, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Councilmember Say. Thank you so much. And Councilmember Say, did you want me to, I was remiss, I should have asked if you guys wanted to ask questions to the State Department of Agriculture. Would you like Earl Yamamoto to come back up to the podium? Okay, thank you so much. The next testifier is Mariah Yoshizu.
Hi, good morning, Chair, Vice Chair, members of the Council. Mariah Yoshizu on behalf of the Ulupono Initiative. We stand on our testimony in support of this measure. This was one of the top general recommendations from the Ag Stakeholder Group, and we look forward to collaborating with the Council and some of our Ag leaders so that we can really uplift Ag in Oahu. Thank you.
Thank you. Members, any questions? Councilmember Say.
Yes, I have one question for you also. Since you're the future farmer of Oahu, how can you get the state and the county to do more agricultural land banking? Waimanalo has agricultural lands that are classified for ag, and that was ag farms, right? Correct me if I'm wrong, and other parts of the state. But for Oahu, wouldn't you want us to say, oh, for this particular area of Waihole and Waikane, it's all going to be ag? And we, as a council, would have to make that hard decision. Can we earmark all that property? So what I'm trying to get at, you folks have, the task force has to start planning of land acquisition, land banking for agriculture also, so that the state and county protects these lands in perpetuity in agriculture. And finally, has it worked, the ag classification with Ailish and Lisa, important ag lands? They rejected the county's recommendation, Madam Chair. Right? Wasn't there that discussion about we had submitted the report? It died, yeah, okay. For me, Councilwoman Tupola, Make. So I just bring this up because, I truly believe in agriculture. I truly believe in food security. But it doesn't seem like we're doing any major dent into that percentage of imports that we have. So I'm not trying to scold you, just giving you my wisdom, my naho about where things may be in the out years. If we can go vertical, it's much more, maybe cheaper, I don't know, but it will be much more cleaner. And the prototype, I say to all of you, go and visit Mr. Ellison's Sensei. Is that the brand that he has right now? Wow, for the island of Lanai. And they're exporting it, right? See? Okay, thank you.
Thank you so much. Is there anyone else in the council chamber who would like to testify on this item? Please come forward to the testifier podium and begin by stating your name.
Good morning, I'm Brian Miyamoto with the Hawaii Farm Bureau. Thank you, Chair, Vice Chair, members of the committee for hearing my testimony. I apologize. We did submit written testimony. I just forgot to write down on the form out there that we will be testifying. We are in strong support of this, and we appreciate you considering reconvening the task force. You heard previous testifiers. We do have a recommendation. First of all, we appreciate the broader priority focus, but want to make sure that it's not just limited to those. It's very broad, covers almost all of ag, but we like, just in case there are other issues that do come up, but we appreciate expanding the scope of the task force. Also, as you heard, the stakeholder group that was working on Bill 64, maybe you can suggest starting there as a base for your membership. They've been extremely engaged in the Bill 10, Bill 64 process. They've been, again, coming to the meetings, meeting with council members, and really putting the effort in. So that might be a good place to start. It is a diverse and broad group. We're not suggesting just limiting to them, but that might be a great place to start as far as considering some membership for the task force. Other than that, just wanted to say Farm Bureau is committed. We do know it's gonna take some resources, and we are committed to ensuring that the task force doesn't go the way it did previously, and that it is active and it does advise the council on Oahu agriculture issues. Thank you for the opportunity to provide testimony.
Thank you. Any questions? Councilmember Tupola.
Yeah, no question, but I will state that I felt the same way when we were preparing for Bill 10 and 64. I felt like we convened the Ag Task Force because we were meeting so often. So I am hoping that this kind of rolls right into us. If there are things that didn't get cleaned up correctly in this bill, that we can kind of readdress with the task force members that are many of the people that spend hours and hours of time looking through this bill. So thank you for your commitment. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Any other questions? If not, is there anyone else who would like to testify on this measure?
Aloha, Chair, members. My name is Dawn Bruns. I submitted written testimony in addition to attending today. Chair, I noticed your proposed amendment would, while allowing the grandfathering of existing wind turbines for the remainder of their existing
I'm sorry, this is for the task force, the agricultural task force.
Oh, I thought it was Bill 64.
No worries.
I'll be back.
No worries. It'll be soon. Anyone else who would like to talk, to testify on Resolution 24-243, which reconvenes the City Council's Agricultural Development Task Force? If not, we are going to proceed on with remote testimony. Clerks, do we have any remote testifiers for this item?
Chair, yes, we do.
We have listed Micah Munikata.
Chair, testifier is not signed on.
Next, we have Raquel Achu. Is Raquel on?
Yes, good morning. Can you hear me?
Good morning.
Thank you so much, Chair and committee members. Raquel Achu, Wailuamoku, North Shore. I am in strong support of reconvening the task force or task group. Although I am the chair for our Ag Committee on the North Shore, I am testifying for myself as a rancher. I believe this force or this group will have the opportunity to provide much needed support to our agricultural industry and provide resource for our farmers and ranchers. To previous testifiers' comment of including different areas, yes, if there could be consideration to maybe a representative of each district, as everywhere is different. We have many different, although agriculture across the board is very difficult, we have a lot of differences, and I think it's important for each to have proper representation. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Is there anyone else standing by remotely who would like to testify on this item? Clerks, do you see anyone else?
Chair, no one else.
Okay, thank you. For the administration, do we have the Department of Planning and Permitting?
Good morning, committee chair and members. Alex Beatty with DPP. We support the resolution and are excited to participate in the task force and continue to work on, among other things, zoning reform that will support farmers and ag on Oahu.
Thank you so much. I'll ask the first question perhaps then. I do know that the Office of Economic Revitalization and the Office of Climate Change have been involved, but you guys play a key role. And I do know that one of the other requests, apart from the task force, was that there be someone station, a full-time staffer at the Department of Planning and Permitting, specifically for agriculture. And yeah, I don't know if you could opine on that, but it's something I'm going to be looking at in the upcoming fiscal budget. What are your thoughts on that?
We do have some staff right now who are particularly interested in ag uses and regulations related to that, but I think some specific technical expertise would be of some assistance to us.
Okay, thank you. And I do know that we are all facing a budget crunch, but there are a lot of vacant positions, and so for me, the offset for funding this position could come from some of the vacant positions. Any questions by any of the members? Councilmember Wire.
Thank you. I had a question for Ms. Achu. And just wanted to ask if you had thoughts on the diversity of or makeup of the committee. I know you mentioned geographic makeup, but just wondered if you could share a little bit more so that we are informed as we have conversations about the appointments and everything, and of course retaining folks that are on it already.
Yes, absolutely. I think every district has a very different landscape, and you have different views from farmers versus ranchers. So I think it's really important to be able to have a productive and effective representation of each, although everything at the end of the day is very relative to everyone's operation. I think it's important to have that proper representation. And I realize there's many districts that would probably eat up the whole seat availability. But I think if we're able to provide that extra consideration to provide a more thorough and effective collaboration, and it enhances the service or the effectiveness of the group.
Okay, appreciate that. I think I hear the distinction between ranchers and farmers, and of course, our district in particular, I know everyone has their own geography, would be from Kahalu'u all the way to Wailua down through Wahiwa, Kunia, so kind of that geographic diversity as well.
Right. There's a lot of land, for example, that farmers would consider not usable, but ranchers would consider usable. So and then there's fisheries, and there's so many different aspects that warrant great attention.
Mahalo for that. Mahalo, Chair. Thank you.
Thank you. Members, any other questions for DPP? We are in discussion, and I wanted to turn over to Councilmember Tupola. Do you have any questions for DPP?
No questions, but I have comments at the appropriate time.
Oh, yes. I'm sorry. Councilmember, say first on question.
Yes, Mr. Beatty, there's only one request I would like to make. Bring the BFS to the table also. We've had a lot of conflicts with how businesses are intruding into agricultural lands as they try to coexist. But my point to you is this: we are getting shortchanged at the county level. If it's agriculture, you don't have an industrial activity happening because they're not paying the industrial classification tax rates. So, Madam Chair, if you could incorporate real property tax as part of this task force too, so that you can see what is really happening as far as the discrepancies of how different companies and businesses may be taking advantage of the ag classification rate versus the industrial. So I bring this up just for your consideration in conveying that to the future council members next year. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Say. As a co-sponsor of the measure, I wanted to make sure that Councilmember Tupola could have her say before I make my recommendation.
Thank you so much, Chair, and thank you for the conversation. First off, I just wanted to say that this list of what they will cover: zoning, land use, infrastructure, taxes, grants, other incentives, data gathering, food security, institutional purchasing, biosecurity, economic development, permitting, and certifications. All of these different topics deal with different departments in the city. It could go towards DFM in maintenance. It could go towards BFS in regards to taxes, or it could go towards DCS in regards to grants. So I think, what we envision, hopefully, is that this task force will make those recommendations. We as council members can work with the departments to implement those recommendations. And if and when necessary, we can introduce legislation that can support those recommendations. I do think that as far as cleaning out of ditches and streams, I know in many of the farmers' areas, they do their own property, but they are not allowed to go into the ditch or stream in other people's properties or clean the whole entire mountainside, so that there is some access issues and property permissions that need to be in place for that. I also want us to be cautious about any type of land banking, because I do believe at this point right now that the state of Hawaii does own and operate a lot of land that farmers and ranchers wish they had access to. And they're going through that fight at the ledge because they want DLNR to give some land over to Department of Agriculture. So I think we'll let the state fight those battles. I think we stay focused on the things that pertain to city zoning. Lastly, I wanted to add that if we do have somebody in DPP working specifically with agriculture, I do think we also are going to have to talk about enforcement. I know that it's not necessarily for DPP, they can address some of the NOVs, whatnot, but in our area, there's also criminal agriculture enforcement that we need. We've had quite a bit of crimes, and because it's so rural, so remote, no one's going out there, no one's helping you. So I think we have to really address those type of things with DPP and not just add this extra layer of follow all these rules, but good luck enforcing it. So I think as the task force starts to convene, as we hear their suggestions and not our own suggestions, I think it'll guide us to do what's right. And I think what Councilmember Kia'aina said is necessary, which is address what things we might need to add into the budget or what policies we might need to change. I loved what Board Member Achu said about diversity. I think having people within every district is nice. I hope we do. I want us to have a variety, but also a diversity in what type of agriculture, what type of farming, because my egg farmers are different than my pig farmers, are different than my ranchers. So I want all of those voices to be heard, and I will work side by side with Councilmember Kiain and, of course, Chair Waters to make sure that this is executed, and we're not going to let it fall by the wayside. And if there were things that we didn't address adequately in Bill 64, we can take those up as discussion points in the task force, see what we can do. So we're excited to do this. I'm grateful that Councilmember Kiaina has the same energy and enthusiasm for our farmers because they need all of our support. Thank you.
Thank you so much, and thank you for your leadership on this issue. At the last hearing, Councilmember Dos Santos Tam posed it to everybody that maybe at the appropriate time, beyond the parameters of this city council task force, if we wanted to institutionalize it, to make it more attached to an administrative agency so that it would have long-term interest in providing guidance, not just to us, but also to the executive branch. It's something for the task force to consider. The chair recommends that Resolution 24-243 be amended to the proposed CD1, identified as OCS 2024-1014. Any objections, any reservations? Hearing none, the resolution has been amended to a CD1. The chair then recommends that Resolution 24-243 CD1 be reported out for adoption. Any objections, any reservations? Hearing none, so ordered. Moving on to agenda item number 2 for action, Bill 64-2023 FD1. This bill will address the regulation of uses throughout Chapter 21, revised ordinances of Honolulu 2021, the Land Use Ordinance, by repealing existing Land Use Ordinance Article 5, replacing it with a new Article 5, and making conforming amendments through revised ordinances of Honolulu 2021. Members, Bill 64-2023 FD1 CD1 passed second reading, and a public hearing was held at the council meeting on November 7th. As detailed in Council Communication 279-2024 and the posted agenda, at today's meeting, the committee is considering cleanup amendments to all use categories. We have listed on the agenda 6 Council Communications, proposing further amendments to the CD1 version of Bill 64 that passed second reading and was the subject of a public hearing at the council on November 7th. First, we have Council Communication 283-2024, proposed by Councilmember Tupola. I have filed Council Communication 291-2024 with my recommendation for each line item in Councilmember Tupola's proposal. Second, we have Councilmember Communication 284-2024, proposed by Councilmember Wire. I have filed Council Communication 292-2024 with my recommendations for each line item in Councilmember Wire's proposal. Third, we have Council Communication 285-2024, proposed by Councilmember Say. I have filed Council Communication 293-2024 with my recommendations for each line item in Councilmember Say's proposal. Fourth, we have Council Communication 294-2024, proposed by Council Chair Waters. I have filed Council Communication 295-2024 with my recommendations for each line item in Council Chair Waters' proposal. Finally, my initial and supplemental proposed amendments can be found in Council Communications 286-2024 and 290-2024, respectively. If it's okay with all of the council members who propose amendments, we can go over our proposals in more detail when we get to discussion. Before I call up the administration, I would like to take public testimony, proceeding first with in-person testimony in the council chamber. Clerks, do we have any in-person testifiers for this item?
Chair, yes, we do.
The first on this list is, I'll say the first 3, so you can get prepared: Brian Miyamoto, Don Bruns, and Mark Anthony Clement. So, Brian?
Thank you, Chair. Vice Chair, members of the committee, Brian Miyamoto here on behalf of the Hawaii Farm Bureau. You have a written testimony. It's essentially the same since the full council hearing with one change based on a proposed amendments. Chair, we do appreciate you addressing the agriculture easement requirement, which we did think was burdensome, and replacing that with a farm plan. However, the farm plan may still be burdensome for some of our farmers and ranchers, so we are asking to consider also allowing the ag dedication documents, which does have a diagram, which is pretty extensive, which actually shows that the farmer rancher is actually farming in lieu of the farm plan. So we're not asking to eliminate the farm plan, but the ag dedication documents as an alternative, which any bona fide farmer should have if they're getting the ag dedication property tax rates. So that is our testimony. Other than that, we appreciate all the work that you have done, Chair, and the council, each one of you, and your commitment to agriculture. We do want to preserve ag land. We want to make sure that bona fide farming is being done, and we agree with the land use updates. Many of these updates are trying to do that for our farmers and ranchers here on Oahu. So thank you for all the hard work that you've done.
Thank you
Aloha.
so much. And actually, thank you for your leadership. First, I need to ask members if they have any questions of you. Members, any questions for Mr. Miyamoto? Councilmember Tupola.
Could you just outline exactly where it says that, or do you know?
It's under housing, under ag tourism. It's multiple places. I believe it's in Cherokee Islands communications.
In her amendments?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. And Councilmember Tupola, since I just was made aware of that, and this is our final hearing, I am going to be making a slight verbal amendment, but narrowly tailored for farm dwellings. Thank you. Don Bruns, thank you.
Aloha, Chair, Kia'ana, members. Chair, I noticed your proposed amendment would, while allowing the grandfathering of existing wind turbines for the remainder of their existing power purchase agreements, which you and I agree mistakes in the past are in the past and must be honored. But it's phrased in a way that would allow grandfathering beyond the existing power purchase agreement. Your language as written would inadvertently gut the bill and allow perpetuation of grave injustice to your people of Oahu. I pray your phrasing was an error, and I can't keep up with the various iterations, so it may have already been corrected. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Members, any questions? If not, we're going to move on to Mark Clement.
Hello, Chair, Vice Chair, members. Mark Anthony Clemente on behalf of the Hawaii Regional Council of Carpenters. I stand by my written testimony, but I just want to highlight a couple things. I want to mahalo Chair for amendments regarding the joint development agreements and for reinserting joint development agreements under miscellaneous use in the master use table, as well as the Hawakale allowing bed and breakfasts and TVU units in A2 zone district. Thank you.
Thank you. Members, any questions? Moving on to Mitchell Tynens. Mitchell? Mitchell, are you here?
Sorry. Good morning, Chair Kia'ana and Planning Committee members. I would like to convey my strong support for Bill 64, amendments to as proposed by the Councilmember Tupola, which would allow legal transit vacation accommodations to the Ewa area. This proposed legislation represents an important opportunity to enhance our community by supporting our local businesses, stimulating economic growth, and providing more diverse lodging options for visitors to our region. I'm a lifelong resident of Ewa Beach. That's about roughly 50 years. How time flies. I witnessed the challenges posed by the limited availability of visitor accommodations in our area. Unlike other regions on Oahu, Ewa lacks the same variety of lodging options found in places like Waikiki, Ko'olina, Turtle Bay. Bill 64 would address the gap by permitting transit vacation rentals on A2 zoning districts adjacent to the resort area, thus enabling us to offer short-term rental options in line with the needs of both visitor and local residents. Just to finish up, Importantly, there's already a precedent for allowing the transit vacation accommodations in A2 zone lands adjacent to the resort area. Like I said, through other areas on Oahu successfully implemented this policy, demonstrating that it can be done in a way that respects the local community while benefiting the tourism sector. Bill 64 builds on this precedent, offering the balanced approach to zoning that aligns with the interests of both residents and visitors. Please support this amendment. Thank you for your time and consideration.
Thank you so much. Members, any questions? Councilmember Tupola.
Just real quick, just so everyone knows, are you still on the neighborhood board? Or if you can just share like how long, I mean, I know you're super involved, but like how many years you served on neighborhood board and how integrated you were in all of this?
I'm still on the board. I have been on the board for about over 15 years. I was chair for the neighborhood board for the last 9, 10 years. I'm just past July, I'm still on the board, but everybody think I got off, but I did not. I'm still on the board, and I'm still going to represent our community as best as I can.
I just wanted to share that because he's been involved way before my time, you know, during Kim Pine's time, way before that too. So he has a lot of history in what happened in this area. Thank you, Mitch.
Thank you. The next testifier is Austin Salcedo, followed by Calais Salcedo.
Aloha. Concerning the amendments that made to the latest changes, this is my third time coming to this hearing. And I appreciate the changes they made to the agriculture area where it's permitted for our the use of our animal raising. But I don't see the amendments that made to the setbacks of the 100 feet setback that I said it cannot be, it's not practical and it's unachievable on country zones and some other areas. Because we have 1 acre property that's 130 feet wide, and we're gonna have a setback of 100 feet that's unachievable. So we need to amend that. That's our first hearing that I requested. And secondly, what I'm asking is this group living on page 5, working together with the state, and page 20, I asked for an amendment on this, a change. The group living to be state regulated. State regulated has mismanagement in this. So it needs to be deleted in its entirety because they're not working along with the city DPP, conditional use permit. Their certificate of need is mismanaged. We had a meeting last night, the neighborhood board. It was found that they have flaws in their permitting process. This entirely should be this group living facilities. It needs to be tabled again. It shouldn't be passed in the form that it's in right now. It should be tabled. I'm not asking. I'm going to demand this. Okay, because of mismanagement by the state health development and permitting agency, SHPDA. That's what they're called. Okay, they're totally separate from the Department of Health, but they're utilizing the Department of Health's on-site inspectors. How is that when they're supposed to be a separate entity? It's totally mismanaged under the state. And they're not in alignment with our conditional use permit or DPP department. So they're always putting our DPP under the treasure of the bus, but no, not this time. So we need to amend this and we need to table this one more time. So I'm not asking anymore because that's what I asked in our second hearing. I'm demanding for it. That's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you. Members, any questions? Councilmember Tupola.
Yeah, thank you, Uncle, for being here. So 2 separate things. One is for the setbacks, which Councilmember Kiaina and I had long discussions about this. The ones that are next to other ag lots, there is no setback. The setback was set for agricultural lots that are near BMX or apartment zoning, which is actually nobody within YNI. Secondly, there was a setback that did stay, and that was for the feed store. I did try to pull that one out, but that's still in here. And then for the group living facilities, I will convene with DOH and DPP because I've already met with Dawn about this, and I did talk to Chair, and she doesn't want to incorporate it in this bill, but notwithstanding doesn't mean we can't still amend the LUO. So it is something that's partially DOH related, which is not us. We're only partially related because anything under a certain amount of group living people pertains to us, but over 8 people pertains to the state, which is kind of weird. So we give out permits for certain ones and they give out permits for certain ones. So I will address that in another way with both agencies and then work with Uncle to try to resolve that. So just wanted to share that.
If I'm allowed to elaborate on the group living as well too, there's a development that has not been brought to our city councilwoman, to the neighborhood board. In Makaha area, there's 240-something acres going to be developed, 249 acres, and it's going to be 200 acres of housing development, and 40 acres is going to be agriculture. Never brought to the neighborhood board, never brought to our city councilwoman too. Only transparency they did was 2 newspaper articles in November. What I'm trying to say is this is a highly possible turn into group living facilities, non-broad related, state operated, and there's some total mismanagement. I just like to bring that across, something to consider and then digest. Thank you.
Thank you so much. The next testifier is Calais Salcedo.
Aloha, Chair and committee of the floor. This is a very big concern that I have because of our agriculture. To be self-sustainable, we worked hard just not to depend on shipments that's coming into our islands. And we're being strict and we're being gagged by nonprofit organizations, by developers that's looking at Hawaii. And a lot of them do not live here, but they bring a nonprofit organization to develop on the island of Hawaii. When is this going to stop? And negative impacted, where is the pono? There is no pono because the people don't have a say. I have agricultural land, I get violators that comes on. The mountain is owned by the state. The front of my property is owned by the city. But they cannot control the habit, the bad habit that we have. No one is replacing what's my loss on my farm. Nobody replacing that 30-something Rhode Island Red that I collect my eggs from. I do it. I'm not here for handouts. I work hard, and I'm teaching my kids and my grandchildren to be self-sustainable. All I'm asking, enough is enough. Stop the gentrification. Stop pushing our people out from Waianae. We had the highest native Hawaiian on that side. All we knew is agriculture to farm and everything. But here they want to come in with buildings, nonprofit organization, mental health services, drug addiction services. Waikiki was once a farm area, farmland. Now they got old buildings. Let us live the way we was taught from my kupunas, from my past ancestors. Do not disregard that and be careful what's been done, because you folks know what we're up against. Gentrification. Enough is enough. We come here asking for help. We go to the state. Do not shut the door on us, because you folks might be seeing a RICO. Look it up, lawsuit.
Thank you so much. Members, any questions? We're going to move on to the next testifier, Tony Kowal.
Aloha, Chair, Vice Chair, members of the committee. Tony Kowal with Terraform Power for the Kahuku Wind Farm. Thank you for the opportunity to testify, to provide comments on Bill 64 relating to large wind energy generation facilities. We support addressing community interests and strongly support Chair Waters' proposed amendments in CC-294. Most notably, Section E will allow us to invest in the facility while minimizing an increase in height for any component replacements. We also appreciate and thank Chair Kia Aina in her proposed amendments in CC-290, but we do have reservations on conditions that may jeopardize the facility's operation. We ask the committee to consider that for all new renewable energy contracts or PPAs through Hawaiian Electric, there are very strong community benefits and consultation-focused requirements in their selection criteria that in turn become permanent obligations within the new power contracts. So any future proposals by the wind farm will involve a substantial new community benefits program, extensive community engagement, and improved technology, which will lower the cost of energy. In short, we just ask for the opportunity to demonstrate that our wind farm is in the ratepayers' and public's interest. Mahalo for your consideration.
I have a question. You're not telling me to strike my amendments, are you? I know you have concerns, but I'm asking you, do you want me to strike it?
There are concerns on one specific area that Hawaiian Electric provided in their written testimony regarding continuous and uninterrupted. We would like to probably talk a little bit more about that.
This is the final hearing, so I just gave you an opportunity. So if you don't want to comment, just say that. Thank you for your testimony.
Thank you.
The next testifiers, Mary Freeman, Earl Yamamoto, and Sunny Unga.
Thank you, council members, for allowing me to testify. I am supporting the transient housing at the resort area in Hawaka'lai. Resorts in Hawaii, particularly the island of Oahu, do allow for transient accommodations in resort areas. Waikiki has them, Ko'olina has them, Turtle Bay has them. There is no reason why we should not be allowed to have them in Hawaka'lai. Right now, I have family members visiting. They're staying out at Ko'olina. They're doing commerce shopping out in Ko'olina. That could be here in Ewa Beach. We're not the boonies, we should be allowed. Also, I've heard people say, well, it's the freshwater usage. I think they're talking about the wave pool. If you want to do away with that, then you're going to have to do away with all swimming pools because it's basically a swimming pool with a motor. Again, it doesn't hurt anyone, anything. It's not derogatory towards the neighborhood. Any questions?
Thank you for your testimony. The next testifier is Earl Yamamoto.
Morning, Chair, Vice Chair, members of the committee. Earl Yamamoto for Sharon Hurd, Department of Agriculture. The department has, we support or we oppose. And we, to kind of summarize how we looked at these, the amendments over the past year or two is that where our perspective is to protect existing agricultural operations and their potential expansion, not unnecessarily impede the establishment of new agricultural operations, and protect access to agricultural lands for agricultural production in both agricultural zoning districts, Ag 1 and Ag 2. The department is very wary of amendments that may result in the intrusion of new or expanded uses and activities onto agricultural lands that are not clearly accessory and secondary to the primary agricultural use categories. These new or expanded non-agricultural uses, along with unfettered partitioning of agricultural land, subdivision, CPRs, there are all types now. These activities can increase agricultural land values far beyond what the income from the production and sale of agricultural products can support. That's the end of my testimony.
Thank you so much. Members, any questions for Earl? Thank you so much. The next is Sunny Unga.
Aloha, my name is Sunny Unga on behalf of Kahuku Community Association. Since 2021, I stood in this very room numerous times advocating for a greater setback. For 4 years, I have echoed the same testimony, yet here we are. Over 200 residents have been arrested in peaceful nonviolent resistance because for more than a decade, the voices and the concerns of our community have been ignored and disregarded. Too big, too close, not behind our Keiki school, despite long opposition, Napuamakani happened. It feels like nothing has changed as we are still desperately fighting for our fundamental rights to a healthy, safe, quality life. What more will it take you, who do not live in Kahuku, who do not bear the cumulative impacts of these industrial wind turbines, to truly listen to our community? Existing turbine projects must not be able to extend, renew, amend their existing power purchase agreement without coming into compliance with this new setback. I had more to say, but maybe you can ask me questions.
Members, any questions? Councilmember Wire.
Yeah, I'm definitely curious about the additional thoughts. Ms. Onga.
Thank you. No one in this room would be willing to live 284 feet, 372 feet, 1,500 feet away from these 568 feet turbine or first wind turbines. And some of you haven't visited Kahuku for a site tour, and yet you are tasked with making a decision that deeply impacts our family's health. We ask you to listen to our community. And is that question also extended to our concerns about the newly proposed language? Okay, so we have 3 concerns with the newly proposed amendments. We feel that it allows grandfathering of existing turbine projects to operate after their lease term, particularly the term that says during the term of the facility's continuous and uninterrupted power purchase agreement. We are dancing around semantics and language, and it is very confusing and ambiguous, and we would like to request that we add language that clearly conveys the intention of this bill, which is not to create a permanent grandfathering of existing projects beyond their lease term. So our proposal was any facility that receives a new power purchase agreement, extension or amendment to an existing power purchase agreement shall comply with the new setback. And I believe in our course of our hearings that has been made public or on record that the intention is not to have these existing turbines to operate in perpetuity. The second point that we have a concern with is that there is no regulation on increasing the height for existing projects. It deleted the 7% increment and keeping the max at 575. And it also notated that a height increase as a minor modification. We feel that this is a free range and pre-approval for developers that circumvent the needed process. We strongly oppose allowing turbine heights to be at 575. This is not a minor modification, but a major change with significant consequences, as increasing the height increases the shadow flicker, the noise, the safety risks, and adverse effects on local wildlife, such as our birds, endangered bats as well. And allowing unregulated increases in turbine height sets a dangerous precedent. We believe if developers seek to increase turbine heights, they must fully comply with Section F and complete all necessary environmental assessments and permitting processes to carefully evaluate the implications for both human and wildlife populations. I also want to ask the councils to really require the developers to bear the burden of proof in demonstrating compliance with stringent safety and environmental standards. Not having any regulations on height increases allows developers to circumvent these processes that will ensure protection of residents and wildlife. And we also want the council to consider suggesting using smaller blade sizes as a safer alternative. I also want to share some of the things that I've been told. I've heard that the rationale for maintaining a 575 feet height limit is to ensure equity between the developers, so that one developer can ask for a 7% and one is not allowed to have any increase. But I want to ask you, where is the equity for the people? Where is the equity for our communities, for our children, for for the people. And mind you, these two projects aren't equal to begin with. One is much closer and much taller than the other turbines. I want you to remember, where is the consideration for the equity and the justice for the community, the people who are enduring shadow flicker, noise pollution, chronic exposure to infrasound, which we don't even have a regulation for, and the safety risks involved with blade throw and countless other impacts.
Ms. Unga, you're going to have to wrap.
Okay, my thing is that, you know, Terraform came here and they, you know, they're talking about community involvement and input. You know, we've heard for a long time that they wanted to increase their turbine height. But have you ever come to our community and ask and consult?
Mrs. Unga,
so I just wanted to let you know that please, we support strongly the original committee draft as it is written with our amendments. Thank you so much.
The next testifier is Taylor Campbell.
Hi, I'm Taylor Campbell, speaking on behalf of Waimanalo Agriculture Association. We stand on written testimony, but wanted to emphasize a few points. First, we're really concerned with the new definition of plant nurseries. It would be detrimentally limiting to nurseries across the islands, as it would ban sales of plants that weren't grown on site, and it also prohibits sales of secondary goods like fresh juice and jam. The old definition of plant nursery was broader and much better. Second, we have concerns with the new language introduced regarding requirements for farm plans. We support what was testified earlier to perhaps allow the existing agriculture maps in lieu of additional farm plans. And three, the overbroad definition of INA-based education. We've elaborated further in our written testimony. Thank you.
Any questions, members? If not, we're going to move on to Kamuela Cobb Adams.
Aloha, Chair Kiaina, Vice Chair Cordero, and members of the council. My name is Kamuela Cobb Adams, Managing Director for Kamehameha Schools. I wanted to give my mahalo to Chair Kiaina and her leadership on Bill 64 in working to create an INA-based education facility category, as well as Councilmember Wire, Tupola, and the DPP staff. Kamehameha Schools supports the proposed amendments to define INA-based educational facilities. The inclusion in nature-based recreation reflects a thoughtful balance between cultural integrity and the regulatory clarity. The creation of an INA-based education facility represents a significant step forward in integrating culture, environmental, and community-based values into land use policy. Kamehameha Schools also supports the amendment allowing caretaker units of Hawaiian fish ponds to provide essential on-site stewardship to protect cultural practices. These units will ensure the preservation of Hawaiian culture, enhance land security, and support sustainable land uses. Mahalo.
Thank you so much. Members, any questions? Councilmember Say.
Mr. Cobb Adams, thank you very much for your presentation as far as your speech. And I do support the INA-based education because I was given the opportunity of experiencing it with your Kamehameha School students at Lumahai Valley. Thank you.
Mahalo.
Thank you. Thank you so much. The next testifier is Aki Krusata.
Good morning, Chair, Vice Chair, and the members of the committee. My name is Aki Cruzada on behalf of Hawaiian Electric. We appreciate the proposed amendment language in Chair Waters CC 294. We acknowledge that the language in CC 294 will help and give the opportunity to continue beyond the term of their contract, but this would not be an automatic extension as they have to participate in the competitive RFP and be reselected to continue. The existing wind facility's current production is vital to meet our state's renewable energy and the decarbonization 100% by 2045. And we appreciate this committee for your efforts on this proposed amendment, and thank you.
Members, any questions? I'll ask the same question that I asked the other gentleman. I heard what you said. Would you also like me to strike my amendments, even if you're not happy with it? Because there's a lot of people in the front row who would like me to strike that amendment. Would you like me to strike my amendment?
No.
Thank you. The next testifier is Micah Munikata.
Good morning, Chair, Vice Chair, members of the committee. Micah Munikata here on behalf of Ulupono Initiative. Wanting to reiterate the gratitude we have for you, Chair, and your leadership on this measure, and a lot of council members and attention to land use policy. This is truly how we do business and how we function here on this island. So it's very important, and we very much so are appreciative for the work and efforts you put in, especially around the agricultural use items. I think you've seen our testimony since 2021. It at one point was about 16, 17 pages. We're down about 4. So again, that's a testament to how much you've actually listened to the agricultural voices that have come before you. So again, thank you so much for that, Chair and members. We do have just a couple of comments, as mentioned by previous testifiers. We would like to see that you provide an option on the 51%, just giving farmers an option around the farm plan or an ag tax dedication. We think that there's very similar information that's there, but it doesn't put an additional burden on a farmer to do if they're already doing this stuff. So it would be helpful to consider moving forward. And we do highlight in our testimony still some continued concerns around what we do even in our Ag 2 lands. We really got to consider how some of these items, such as meeting facilities, daycares, group living, K-12 schools, I mean, should we be putting that next to agricultural production? That Ag 2 land is still productive agricultural land, so we really should consider how we adjust and how we do those things. They've historically had some issues over in the past around trying to find a balance, and just wanted to mention that concern, Chair, but this is consistent with our testimony over the course of the last 2 years. Thank you so much,
Thank you
Chair.
so much, and also thank you for your leadership. Members, any questions? If not, we're going to move on with first Holly Holowak and then Tom Holowak.
Thank you. I got it. Aloha, Chair Kia'aina and honorable council members. I am Holly Holowak, co-founder of Popoki Place, Oahu Cat Sanctuary, and I represent thousands of cats advocates all across the island who are your constituents. They're waiting desperately for Popoki Place to become a reality. Several of them have written testimony, which I encourage you to read before making a final decision. Mahalo nui loa for giving me this opportunity to provide comments today regarding agricultural use subcategory livestock keeping minor. When reading Bill 64 for the 10th time, it became clear that we need to provide a definition of the stark difference between animal sanctuaries and animal shelters. They are quite different. Animal shelters are temporary boarding or housing of animals that may or may not be owned by people. They are often in buildings with AC and need a small land footprint. They are meant to keep animals temporarily. Kennels and boarding facilities fall into this category, as well as the Humane Society. Animal sanctuaries require a large amount of open space for permanent housing of animals. This land is needed to be open pasture land. Animals, like farm animals, must be contained in enclosures with secure fencing until their natural death. All animals, including cats and dogs, should be allowed in sanctuaries on pasture land. We humbly request that you add under this line under livestock keeping and minor raising, minor. Animal sanctuaries are allowed anywhere that animal raising and keeping is allowed. Mahalo nui loa for listening to me all these times that I've come here and for all of your hard work and leadership.
Thank you. Members, any questions? If not, we're going to go to Tom Holowak.
Aloha, Chair Kia'aina and members of the committee. I especially want to thank Councilperson Tupola for your work on this. We think this is a solution to our issue is very simple. First of all, we think that animal sanctuaries and shelters should be regulated under agriculture. And if you look at page 3 for that land use table in green, it says agricultural, livestock, and poultry keeping, animal raising minor. There's 3 phrases. The first phrase defines minor as being a place that won't annoy people very much. The second phrase defines exactly the animals that can be in there. Now, when you define exactly what can be there, it knocks out things that might be able to be there. So I think that the simplest solution is to change and strike the very last sentence of the last phrase where it says, the term does not include feedlots, see major animal raising, that's fine. The boarding and care of household pets owned by other persons, see animal care, that's fine. Please strike the last 4 words, or animal shelters, see animal care. For the newest definition, the reason that we're doing this is because we think that in people's minds, you don't understand the difference between a shelter, which is a temporary space, which can be in an urban environment, and a sanctuary, which needs to continue on. So we think that if you knock out the ability for any shelters to be in agriculture, you're creating a rule which is written in statutes, on the book, in stone, where you say they cannot, and it's always dangerous to say cannot. So if you wanted to say allowed with a permit, I think that would be good. The second thing is, Councilperson Tupola has suggested in her amendments.
If you could wrap up, you've already gone 2 minutes.
Down in the commercial area, to add under minor animal care that it is permitted in agriculture, Ag 1, Ag 2, and country, permitted with use rules. And she has worked on that, and so we actually support the Councilmember Tupola's change in wording in her amendment. And thank you so much for your consideration. We think that this is a very easy solution, and thanks for listening to us. Any questions?
Members, any questions? Councilmember Tupola.
Not a question, I'll just make a quick comment. Councilmember Kiaina did accept partially what I wrote in there on line 18 of her amendments in the council communication. So at the appropriate time, I'll talk with DPP openly about this one so that they can elaborate on how we believe that what you're asking is incorporated in some of this.
Okay.
And just for clarity, guys, I don't have a cat. I'm not like a cat person. But if these guys have cats, then we have less cats in my community. So I just want to support you in all your endeavors. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Anyone that wants to get cats off the streets and off the beaches, please support us. Thank you so much.
Chair.
Is there anyone else in the council chamber who would like to testify on this item? Please come forward to the testifier podium and begin by stating your name.
Frankie Rife from Waipahu. Good morning, everyone. Thank you for this opportunity to share today. Aloha, Chair Kiaina, and Planning and Economic Committee members. I support Bill 64 amendments authorizing Airbnb at Ho'okale Resort. I have worked in the Ewa Beach area for over 20 years, and I urge the Planning and Economic Committee to support the proposed amendments to Bill 64 that would allow bed and breakfast homes and transient vacation rentals in the A2 zoning district adjacent to Ho'okale resorts. As outlined in Councilmembers Tupola's Council Communications 255-2024, this proposal represents an important step to enhance visitor accommodations, support economic growth, and most importantly, create jobs. The amendments would bring Ewa Beach in line with the other major resorts on Oahu, such as Waikiki, Ko'olina, Turtle Bay, where similar lodging options are already permitted. Expanding short-term rentals options will attract more visitors, provide greater lodging flexibility, and support local business through increased spending. This is especially critical for Ewa Beach, which lacks legal short-term accommodations. Thank you very much for everything that you do.
Thank you. Members, any questions? If not, anyone else who would like to testify in person? Please come up to the podium and state your name.
Aloha, I'm Frederick Mulder, and I'm from the Waianae Coast. I want to support everything the Salcedo said here today. We're lucky we have excellent community members like them that can understand this big book of Bill 64. I mean, look at this. The average person cannot read and comprehend this. It would take me days and days to go over this and to even comprehend it, because I would have to read it 3 or 4 times. Okay, so we're lucky we have people like that. And then I want to say, this is leading to gentrification, and group living is like exploding on the west side. You know, you have the homeless hanging out at 7-Eleven, Macau. It's ridiculous. You get all the kids coming down there. The bus stops there, you got guys sleeping on the bus stop. I mean, it's ridiculous. So I just want to say, your average person cannot afford and does not have the time to come down here to testify and to go over this. So I just want to support everything they said, and I'm against gentrification. We're you know, handing developers everything while the locals are getting pushed out. Half the Hawaiians have left Hawaii, if not more. And Waianae is one of the last Hawaiian communities. And, you know, once it's gone, it's gone. We don't want Waianae to become Hawaii Kai. Hawaii Kai used to be a great farming community at one time, and now it's just rich homes. Aloha. Thank you.
Thank you. Next testifier, please.
Aloha, Chair. Aloha, members. My name is Gil Riviere from Waialua. I want to mahalo Councilmember Tupola for her comments on enforcement of agriculture violations and people that are doing fake farms, fake agriculture, fake everything. So my comments are addressed to agriculture primarily today, that filing of a farm plan might not be enough. Brian and Farm Bureau and the others commented that ag dedication might be the more appropriate thing. We need to enforce and require agriculture to occur. I would note that the DPP has never enforced a CUP on accessory agriculture activities. Not that I can find. We've tried to research it. We can't find any evidence that a CUP has ever been revoked or cited for violations on ag accessories. So there's problems. Secondly, I strongly support Councilmember Wyer's proposed amendment to require the primary agricultural operations to be in existence before you come in for an accessory use. If it's accessory, it should be supplementing a primary. And so I think that provision is important. And finally, I stand with the Kahuku community. The mistakes that have been made in the past should not be compounded forever and ever and ever. So if we can get away from our perpetual grandfathering, that would be great. Thank you.
Thank you so much, members. Any questions? We are now going to proceed on with remote. Sir? Yeah, please proceed.
Good morning, Madam Chair, Vice Chair, and members of the committee. My name is Mike Perkins. I'm a resident of the North Shore. As a resident of the North Shore, I'm here to support the amendments to allow for nightly rentals at the resort development at Hawakale in the A2 zoning. As a resident of the North Shore, I'm privy to the benefits of permissible nightly rentals at Turtle Bay Resort that allows for a diverse offering of accommodations. In addition to drawing a diverse visitor group in an appropriate location, it supports jobs for local residents. There's also been negative, in my mind, externalities of the elimination of Airbnb on the North Shore in particular. Now, without the additional offerings, you have a lot of people coming up from town and going back to town the same day, so it clogs up the roads and really doesn't support local businesses that once thrived, restaurants, et cetera. So the ability to keep guests, visitors in the Eva Beach area would be successful for not only the resort development, but the community at large, and reduce some of those negative externalities. So thank you so much.
Thank you for coming to testify. Members, any questions? Is there anyone else in the chamber who would like to testify in person? If not, we're going to move on to remote testimony. Clerks, do we have any remote testifiers for this item?
Chair, yes, we do.
The first person is Gary Royster. Is Gary Royster online?
Yes, I am. And again, aloha, Chairman Kiana and members
Gary.
of the committee. My name is Gary Royster, and I do strongly support the proposed amendments for Bill 64, 2023, as outlined in Council Tupolo's Council Communication 255, 2024. These amendments seek to allow bed and breakfast homes and transit vacation rentals within the A2 zoning district adjacent to Hawakale Resort and Lagoon in Ever Beach. As a resident of Hawakale community and a member of Hawakale Country Club, I have seen firsthand the need for increased accommodation options for our community. Currently, as stated before, there are limited lodging opportunities in West Oahu, and Ever Beach has none available for visitors. The proposed amendments would fill this critical gap, providing more choices for travelers, such as the participants of Lotte's LPGA tournament, seeking to experience the unique beauty and culture of our area while also supporting the broader goals of economic growth and community development. Allowing bed and breakfast homes and adjacent and transit vacation rentals adjacent to Hawakale Resort would bring Ever Beach in line with other established resort communities on Oahu, such as
Mr. Royster, can you please conclude your testimony?
Yes. By creating these legal options for short-term rentals, we can generate additional revenue streams for local property owners and business, boost employment opportunities, increase rental property revenues. In addition to the economic benefits allowed, regulated rentals near Hawakale.
Thank you, Mr. Royster. We still have a few more people. Thank you. Next, we have Jonathan Helton, followed by Stephen Sang.
There we go, that should work. Good morning, committee and Vice Chair Cordero. My name is Jonathan Helton. I'm with the Grassroots Institute of Hawaii. We stand on our written testimony. I just wanted to summarize what we discussed there. So first, we appreciate Chair Kiana's cleanup amendment on commercial beekeeping as a permitted home occupation. Secondly, we support the restoration of the joint development agreements that exist in the current LUO and that Councilmember Wire and Chair Kiana have proposed to add back. And then the last thing is relates to home-based childcare. The current draft of the bill would say that a member of, that someone who operates a home-based childcare can have one off-site employee come and work with them. And then the draft amendment would allow, if that person who operates the childcare were sick or was in an emergency situation, a second person from off-site could come and work at the childcare as well. And we would support the adoption of all three of those amendments. I'm happy to answer any questions that you have.
Members, any questions? If not, we're going to move forward with Jen Larson.
Aloha, Chair, Vice Chair, and members of the community. I'm a longtime West Oahu resident. I work and live in Ever Beach and Kapolei area. I urge you to please support Councilmember Tupula's proposed amendments to Bill 64 to allow vacation rental near Hawakale Resort. I fully endorse this bill because there is truly a need in Ever Beach for such type of lodging option, as many of our testifiers have mentioned. Also, this will really bless local businesses, generating tax revenue and benefit the visitors and the local people as well. And the biggest thing for me is why leave the money to the big hotel chains that will just leave the island while it could stay in our local community. So I passionately support this bill, and thank you very much for your support and consideration.
Thank you. Thank you, Jen. The next testifier is Rob Leffler.
Chair, testifier is not logged on.
The next one is Karen O'Mahony.
Testifier is not logged on.
Next testifier, Stephen Sang.
Hi, good morning, Chair Kiayena, members of the committee, and everybody present. My name is Stephen Sang, and I'm with Quad Design Group Architects. I'm speaking for you in support of the proposed amendments to Bill 64 related to Ho'akale Resort. Haseko Hawaii, the developer, has celebrated its 50th anniversary in Hawaii, and our office has been privileged to serve there in various roles since 1994. I have a lot of history here. In 1998, the first homes were built in Ocean Point Area 1, also known as Keanakai, near Fort Weaver Road, on long fallow lands that were previously sugarcane fields. I've seen the area evolve gradually and consistently over the last 25 years, and have much personal gratification to see the fruition of Haseko's efforts in the master planning of the area. This has included the completion of several cluster housing projects, planned development housing projects, among other conventional ones. Haseko has demonstrated a high level of commitment to good planning and design and to achieve the vibrant Ocean Point Ho'akale community that we see today. It's been quite amazing for me to observe the level of community participation in events at the Ho'akale Resort. These proposed amendments will serve to further that commitment.
Thank you. Mr. Sang?
Yes, may I finish one last paragraph?
How about a couple of sentences? Yes.
Yes. Just about the zoning. I feel that the subject lots, which are A2 zoned, the changes would be compatible with the resort zoning nearby. And this project is similar to those currently approved in Section 5 of the land use ordinance that include Waikiki, Koilina, and Turtle Bay. I'm full-hearted supporter of the amendments. Thank you. Aloha.
Thank you, Stephen. I wanted to say something with regard to you and a lot of the other advocates. It has never been a question about whether it was allowable. I think the question that was before the City Council with regard to Councilmember Topola's amendments was whether we allow for short-term rentals, which clearly can be allowed, or whether we provide more local housing. And so that was the challenge. But thank you so much for taking the time to testify. The next testifier is Melissa Kanohi Kamet.
Aloha, aloha Chair Kia'aina and council members. Hi, good morning. Mahalo for the opportunity to testify on behalf of my hometown of Kahuku and my ohana regarding the newly proposed amendments for wind turbine modifications and setbacks. The proposal to allow an increase in turbine height is both outrageous and dangerous. Not only would it pose a significant threat to our wildlife, but it also would jeopardize the health and safety of those of us living near these massive structures. Increasing the height turbines means taller blades, which in turn increases the harmful effects of shadow flickers. I strongly support the proposed 1.25-mile setback. This is a necessary measure to protect the well-being of residents and ensure a safe distance from these massive turbines. However, I do not support allowing existing turbine projects to be grandfathered in and continue operations beyond their lease terms. It is unacceptable for these projects to overstay their welcome, especially when they have already caused significant harm to the community. I have testified numerous times about the health risks associated with shadow flickers. My son suffers from a condition, forced to leave he suffers from epilepsy, forced to leave our family home and relocate to another town just to avoid the devastating effects of these flickers. At one point, his only refuge at home was to room in a blackout curtains and with a shipping container blocking the window. This is not a life of any parent wants for their child. It is heartbreaking to think that he cannot come home simply because of these turbines. I was one of over 200 people arrested while peacefully fighting against these monstrosities. I fought for my kapuna, for our keiki, for my son, for the community. I would do it all over again, working in the shadows of these turbines every day at Kahuku Elementary. It serves as a constant reminder of the sacrifices we made, our arrest, our tears, and our voices, all of which seemingly fell on deaf ears. Today, you have the opportunity to right these wrongs. You have the power to ensure that our rural community is no longer subjected to the injustices we face daily. I urge you to uphold the 1.25-mile setback and prevent existing turbine projects from being grandfathered in past their lease terms. I also strongly advocate for capping the height of the turbines at 568 feet. Please do what is Pono. Help me bring my son home. Help our community feel safe again. The decision you make today can restore our hope and safety to our town. Mahalo nui so much for your time and your consideration.
Thank you so much, Melissa. Members, any questions? If not, we're going to move on to Chris Thompson. Chris, are you on?
Hi there, I am on. Thank you. Hello, my name is Chris Thompson. I'm the director of Lucky Paws Animal Foundation, or a nonprofit on Oahu dedicated to rescuing and rehabilitating sick and injured at-risk cats. Our work focuses on reducing suffering, addressing overpopulation, and promoting humane solutions and cat adoptions. We also operate a shelter, not a sanctuary, and we provide education and outreach to the community. I'm here today to urge you to include animal sanctuaries in Bill 64 by allowing them on pasture land. Sanctuaries are essential for providing permanent, secure spaces for cats that cannot be adopted or returned to their colonies. Without this zoning change, nonprofits like ours cannot help establish spaces which are urgently needed. Other islands like Lanai have shown how successful the sanctuaries can be. The cat sanctuary in Lanai has reduced free roaming cat populations, protected native species, and served as an educational hub. Oahu can and should follow this example. Allowing sanctuaries on pasture land would help move cats out of sensitive areas like harbors and shorelines, protect the environment, and provide a humane solution for this overpopulation on this island. Everybody's been affected by feral cats. This is a simple and urgent change that will benefit animals, our community, and the island as a whole. Please take action now. Mahalo for your time and considering this critical issue. Thanks.
Thank you so much. The next testifier is Mike Foley. Mike, are you on?
Yes, aloha. Thank you, Chair. Thank you, members of the committee, for this opportunity to testify on this important measure. Mike Foley of Kailua here. Thank you, Chair, for making the changes to the language for the 51% dedication for agricultural use standards. The change to require a farm plan as opposed to an agricultural easement is massively important. Agricultural easements are a terrible thing to try to get. Takes a long time, lots of money. So a farm plan's a great idea. I really also do like the idea of offering an option for many farmers who already have dedicated their farmland through the tax exemption process. Why require additional paperwork if that's already done? And also wanted to say, this process started with an expert consultant advising the DPP on how they could suggest revising the LUO. Since so many things have changed and this is so complex, I think maybe it's time to bring it back and have the experts look at it and say maybe how this change to the LUO might affect our community's goals before we try to pass it into final law. That's it. Thank you so much.
Thank you for your testimony. If there are no questions, the next testifier is Raquel Achu.
Hello, good morning again. Aloha, thank you so much. Raquel Achu, Wailua Moku, in support of Bill 64, with some comments on amendments. I did submit written testimony with a variety of notes, and I encourage you to please look at those. But I will comment on two main ones that are of significance. Mahalo to Councilman Wire and Chair Kiaina regarding the joint development standards. I appreciate this being placed into the bill. However, with CUP minors, I would ask that consideration be placed in adding the community engagement and public hearing process. I know it's a minor, but we currently are faced with a variety of large-scale projects out here in our community that have obtained conditional use permits minors and we are learning. Our community has not had any input or knowledge of these very significant projects. Also, very appreciative for council members on page 2, item 2, section 13 in the agricultural operations. Very, very strong support in the requirement of having existing agricultural operations before a CUP, minor, major, any permit really, are approved or issued for accessory uses, that the existing operations should already be in play before asking for accessory permits. So I appreciate the time and the opportunity and look forward to a very hearty growth in our industry. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you so much for testifying. Clerks, do we have any other remote testifiers?
Chair, there are none.
Thank you so much. For the administration, we have Don Takeuchi Apuna, Director for the Department of Planning and Permitting. But members, if it's okay, before I entertain questions by all of the members, I would like to first focus our discussion and questions for the DPP by use based on the amendments that were proposed by council members, and then open it up to any other questions. We will cover the different uses in this order: the 51% requirement, home occupation, large wind energy generation, bed and breakfast homes and transient vacation units, animal care, INA-based education programs, joint development, planning commission special use permits, and other. Members, my amendments being considered today continue to update the use table, use standards and definitions to try to address concerns expressed by both industry groups and the public regarding the impacts of different uses and how to mitigate these impacts, and to clarify what types of activity each specific use includes and does not include. With regard to the 51% requirement, for various uses in the agricultural zoning districts, a minimum 51% of the zoning lot area suitable for crop production or livestock keeping must be dedicated to crop production or livestock and poultry keeping through an agricultural easement or similar legal encumbrance for as long as the use is occurring. We often refer to this requirement as the 51% requirement, which is meant to ensure that a majority of the city's agricultural lands are used for agricultural activities. The following use standards include the 51% requirement: agritourism, farm dwelling, agricultural farmers market, small group living state regulated, small group living non-state regulated, small and medium facilities, pre-K to 12 schools, child daycare, adult daycare, nature-based recreation, major animal care, and small, medium, and large wind energy generation. Several small farmers have indicated that the requirement for an agricultural easement or similar legal encumbrance is a very costly and time-consuming requirement. They have suggested a farm plan requirement that shows the area and percentage of the zoning lot in agricultural use, and information about a farm's plans to engage in crop production or livestock and poultry keeping. I agree with this approach, and my proposed amendments would delete reference to an agricultural easement or similar legal encumbrance, and instead require a farm plan, and as was recommended by several testifiers today, or an agricultural dedication used to obtain a Honolulu real property tax exemption for farm dwellings that shows the area and percentage of the zoning lot to be in active agricultural use, and information, I'm sorry, for tax, so it's going to be either a farm plan or an agricultural dedication for farm dwellings. Wherever the 51% requirement appears, it will read as follows, therefore: a minimum 51% of the zoning lot area suitable for crop production or livestock and poultry keeping must be dedicated to crop production or livestock and poultry keeping for as long as the use is occurring, as evidenced by a farm plan or an agricultural dedication used to obtain a Honolulu real property tax exemption for farm dwellings that shows the area and percentage of the zoning lot to be in active agricultural use, and information about a farm or ranch's resources, goals, business plan, and timeline to engage in crop production or livestock and poultry keeping. I would like to propose a verbal amendment to further amend the 51% requirement of farm dwelling standards in line item 5 of my council communication 286/2024 to provide that crop production and livestock and poultry keeping must be dedicated to, instead of occupy, a minimum of 51% of the zoning lot area suitable for crop production or livestock and poultry keeping. For the Department of Planning and Permitting, does the department agree with requiring the recommendations that I just stated with regard to a farm dwelling and an agricultural dedication for farm dwellings instead of the easement or legal encumbrance?
Good morning again, Chair and council members. Yes, we support this amendment and do feel that it'll reduce the burden on farmers. And we feel that for the most part through building permits or zoning verifications, we should be able to tease out the bona fides of a ag activity prior to issuing building permits. Rulemaking will also allow us to specify what might be necessary in order for us to make those kinds of determinations, and we look forward to working with the Ag Task Force to help develop some of those rules going forward.
Thank you so much. Can you also explain why the dedication would be acceptable for farm dwelling as opposed to the other subject matters that I mentioned?
Yes, the other uses for the most part require a conditional use permit, and we would like the opportunity for the department to tease apart the information provided and make the determination instead of solely relying on budget and fiscal services. For the farm dwelling, it's a relatively low-level accessory use that was accessory to the ag activity, and for that we can rely on BFS. But for these other uses, we would like to be able to do that ourselves.
Okay, thank you so much. Members, do you have any questions for DPP on the 51% requirement? Councilmember Wire.
Thank you, Chair, and I'll be quick. And I know we've kind of discussed this previously, so these should be easy questions. But just so we can have the conversation before we wrap up Bill 64, because part of the concern, or one of the concerns we talked about before with the 51% requirement, understanding that we're going through this process of trying to prevent, say, gentlemen's farms and also increase the use of ag land for actual agriculture. Say someone is, say, a kupuna living on an ag parcel in a home right now. What would be their status if, say, they didn't have at least 51% of their parcel being farmed and they had maybe, you know, their large garden and maybe a goat or something like that?
We would have to treat non-conforming uses as such, or non-conforming structures or dwellings as those. We're not amending any of those provisions. This will primarily apply and is most important for us to think about it in the framework of new things that are coming in to us through building permits for new dwellings. Those new folks will have to show compliance. If somebody were to want to rebuild a dwelling, they would need to show compliance. That's where we'll be checking, and that's really where the regulatory review happens. We did also hear about concerns of enforcement issues, and it is, enforcement on ag land is a challenge for us. And I think that that's something that we're hoping that the Ag Task Force, as well as any potential future staff, might assist with.
Okay, I appreciate that. And just since we're on that topic, could you maybe flesh out, when you're talking about new uses, what would be allowed within the non-conforming use in terms of, say, modifications or repairs, or needs to adjust the property or the home?
Right. Non-conforming structures can be expanded, repaired, altered in any way that does not increase the nonconformity, and non-conforming uses are limited to repair and maintenance. But this would be a non-conforming structure, I think, so it would fall in, it's a pretty high level of what work can be done. But if somebody wanted to build a second dwelling, say the lot was large enough to have 2 farm dwellings, or if it had been CPR'd and they wanted to have a second dwelling, that new dwelling would be subject to the standard.
Okay, so say it like burns down, would they be able to rebuild in the exact footprint, or is there a limitation on how much damage or repair could be made?
90%.
90%, okay.
So if it burns down and it didn't have a foundation, then that would likely be a total, exceed 90%. If it has a robust foundation that remains, then that foundation would likely contribute more than 10% of the replacement value to a reconstruction.
Appreciate that. Does that include like a driveway or carport, other structures, or just be the 90% would have to be the actual dwelling itself?
The dwelling itself.
Okay. And then last question, did you want us to hold off on the 51%? Or, Chair, if I was going to ask questions about the turbines? I'll go ahead and ask questions about the turbines. Okay, mahalo. I know you heard the testimony, and we have the link. No? Okay. Oh, I'll wait. Mahalo.
A lot of changes. Okay. We're going to move on to home occupation. So with regard to the home occupation use, I am proposing to amend the standards for commercial beekeeping as a home occupation to delete the requirement that beekeeping be permitted as a principal use in the underlying zoning district. This is a technical correction because beekeeping as a principal use is under the minor livestock and poultry keeping use, which is not allowed in the residential apartment mixed use, business mixed use, and industrial mixed zoning districts. Beekeeping as a home occupation is allowed in all zoning districts where home occupations are allowed. In response to home-based childcare as a home occupation, I wanted to take this opportunity to respond to testimony by the city's Department of Community Services. Home-based childcare is a type of home occupation and must comply with the standards and requirements for home occupations. There is no limitation on the number of employees a home occupation may employ, but there is a limitation on the number of employees that may be present on the premises at any given time. The intent is to mitigate the impacts of the home occupation on the surrounding neighborhood. For example, if the employees are not physically working out of the home, for example, a bookkeeper who works remotely, there is less likelihood that it will result in negative impacts to the neighborhood, such as traffic and parking. These potential impacts are addressed by allowing for only one employee on the premises at any given time, in addition to the resident of the home who is participating in the home occupation. This is to avoid having the home occupation turn into a larger operation with associated impacts on the neighborhood. For example, if a home-based childcare operation has many employees who care for many children out of a home, it becomes akin to a child daycare use. My proposed amendments to the home occupation use in Council Communication 286-2024, line item 10, would clarify that the one employee of the home occupation that may be on the property at any given time is in addition to the household member engaging in the home occupation, and would also clarify that for home-based childcare, in addition to the one employee who is allowed on the property at any given time, if an emergency renders the principal caregiver as unavailable, an additional employee may be on the property on a temporary basis to substitute for the principal caregiver. I will also be accepting Councilmember Wyer's proposed amendment to the definition of home-based childcare in Council Communication 284-2024, line item 8 as modified, which does the same. Councilmember Wyer, would you like to discuss your proposed amendments regarding home-based childcare?
Just that it was put forward in consultation with the city's childcare administrator to allow for better flexibility for folks that are running childcare out of their homes in terms of the staffing and the employees that they can use, understanding the need in the community. Mahalo, Chair.
Thank you. DPP, do you have any comments on the clarification to the home occupation use?
We support those recommended changes.
Members, does anyone have any questions for DPP about home occupation use? If not, I'm moving forward to large wind energy generation. With regard to large wind energy generation use, by way of background, like all existing uses and structures that do not comply with newly enacted laws, existing wind turbines that no longer meet setback requirements would become non-conforming structures, subject to the non-conforming provisions of the LUO, which allow for repair and maintenance within the scope of their existing permit approvals, so long as they don't increase any non-conformity. There are very few manufacturers of wind turbines and replacement parts, particularly the blades. Sometimes the only replacement blades available are larger than the facility's existing blades. Since the required setbacks are linked to the height of the wind turbine, and since the height of the wind turbine extends to the farthest extension of the blade, if the blade is replaced with a larger blade, it will increase the facility's height and may therefore increase the required setback, essentially increasing the setback nonconformity. Separate provisions in the LUO, Article 4, relating to nonconforming structures provide that a nonconforming structure may be repaired, expanded, or altered in any manner that does not increase its nonconformity. So with respect to the repair, maintenance, or component replacement of wind turbines, it is not the setback requirements per se that are problematic because the facility becomes a nonconforming structure. The difficulty is that any blade replacement that increases the facility's height may also increase the setback nonconformity, which is not allowed. To address this issue, the provisions in the most recent CD1 version of the bill allowed for existing wind turbine repair and maintenance, like the replacement of blades, during the term of the facility's power purchase agreement, so long as the wind turbine's height does not increase by more than 7% of the existing facility height, which was recommended by the State Energy Office, or up to a maximum height of 575 feet, whichever is the lesser facility height, and so long as the wind facility operates within the scope of its approved land use permits. Currently, the power purchase agreements for existing wind facilities have a term of 20 years. The additional height allowance is also carved out so that it doesn't have the effect of increasing the wind turbine's setback nonconformity. The wind energy industry expressed concerns that existing wind turbines should be able to continue generating energy with their operational life after expiration of the initial term of the existing power purchase agreement, and allowing this would be efficient and cost-effective because the facilities themselves and all interconnection facilities already exist. Also, financing any repair, maintenance, or replacement of parts, which may run into the millions of dollars, becomes extremely difficult if the wind facility is considered to be non-conforming and there is a firm end date to a wind facility's ability to operate. At the same time, the community is worried that allowing wind turbine blades to replace with larger versions, especially beyond the end of their current power purchase agreement, could make these wind turbines a more permanent part of the landscape. The amendments we are considering today are an effort to address the concerns of both the industry and the community. My proposed amendments in Council Communication 290-2024, line item 18, would incorporate Councilmember Wyer's proposed amendments and Council Communication 284-2024, line item 1, and portions of Council Chair Waters' proposed amendments in Council Communication 294-2024, line item 1, to do the following. First, it moves the height flexibility from paragraph G to become a proviso in the setback requirements of paragraph E. The following setbacks are required: from all property lines, a minimum distance equal to the height of the facility, and from the property lines of any zoning lot located in the country, residential apartment, apartment mixed use, or resort zoning districts, a minimum distance of 10 times the height of the facility, or 1.25 miles, whichever is greater. For purposes of this discussion, we will call the first paragraph the 1-to-1 setback, and the second paragraph the 10 times or 1.25 to 0.25 mile setback. The new proviso added to paragraph E would provide that the 10 times or 1.25 mile setback would not apply to the repair, maintenance, or component replacement of any large wind energy facility with approved land use permits that were legally established on the effective date or the ordinance through the term of the facility's continuous and uninterrupted power purchase agreement approved by the State Public Utilities Commission, provided that the repair, maintenance, or component replacement of the facility during the stated period is limited to an increase in the height of the facility up to a maximum of 575 feet, and the facility must operate under and within the scope of its approved land use permits, including any minor modifications to account for an increase in height, but not including any major modifications. There are several elements to this provision. First, the 1-to-1 setback will always apply, and there is no exception from this. Second, The exception from the 10 times or 1.25 mile setback only applies during the term of the facility's continuous and uninterrupted power purchase agreement approved by the State Public Utilities Commission. The effect of this provision is that the wind turbine is not considered to be non-conforming, but parameters are in place to ensure that the exception is not for an indefinite period. Going with the term of the facility's continuous and uninterrupted power purchase agreement approved by the State Public Utilities Commission allows for the possibility that a power purchase agreement may be continued, but also includes inherent safeguards because prior to providing any authorization to continue providing energy, the State Public Utilities Commission will conduct inquiry and outreach with the surrounding community. Third, any height increase due to the replacement of blades with slightly larger blades if the same size blades are not commercially available is limited to 575 feet. A percentage increase would be proportional to the existing height of the wind turbine, so a specific height limit is straightforward. Also, a wind turbine's base would not be able to support an inordinately large blade. Fourth, the wind facility must operate under and within the scope of its approved land use permits, including any minor modifications, to account for any increase in height, but not including any major modifications structurally or operationally. It is my understanding that a minor modification to a conditional use permit is still considered to be the same conditional use permit, but a major modification to a conditional use permit requires a new conditional use permit. This provision narrowly allows a wind facility to account for a slight increase in height under its existing conditional use permit, but it does not allow for significant structural or operational changes to the wind facility. To summarize, these amendments would allow existing wind facilities to continue to repair, maintain, and replace components so long as they operate under substantially similar power purchase agreements and land use permits. In paragraph F, my amendments clarifies that it requires an applicant to submit to the DPP site-specific data on shadow, flicker, and noise levels prior to the issuance of a conditional use permit for a new facility. Also, instead of prohibiting noise levels above a specified decibel above ambient sound levels, it prohibits noise levels that exceed applicable State Department of Health community noise controls standards as set forth in Hawaii Administrative Rules, Chapter 11 to 46. In paragraph G, which includes the 51% requirement, the Ag 1 and Ag 2 zoning districts, it carves out areas of the zoning lot that encompass the large wind energy footprint, including areas that contain infrastructure and equipment to support the facility, and areas that have been dedicated to the protection of endangered species and their habits under federal or state of Hawaii laws. There are certain areas within a facility's footprint that are not appropriate for agricultural activity. Safety buffers are required for high voltage electrically charged lines. Open areas are also required for the construction and maintenance of the wind turbines and blades, which involve the use of specialized large cranes and equipment. Habitat conservation protection, mitigation, and monitoring plans require the allocation of land for endangered flora and fauna. Crop production and livestock and poultry keeping may introduce invasive insects and pests that may be harmful to endangered species, or introduce other insects and pests that may attract endangered species, resulting in an invasive species, resulting in an increase of the incidence of attract endangered species, resulting in an increase of the incidental take of endangered species. I would like to propose a verbal amendment to further amend the large wind energy generation standards in line item 18 of my Council Communication 290 to 2024. The new proviso to paragraph E relating to an exception from the 10 times or 1.25 mile setback to refer to a facility's continuous and uninterrupted power purchase agreement authorized by rule or order of instead of approved by the State Public Utilities Commission. The State Public Utilities Commission authorizes power purchase agreements by rule or order. Council Chair Waters and Councilmember Wire, I don't see Council Chair Waters, but Councilmember Wire, would you like to discuss your amendments to the large wind energy generation use.
Yes, Chair. Mahalo. And essentially, the amendment that we put in would ensure that the minimum one-to-one setback was adhered to for the modifications, right? And just to give a little context and history for the conversation we've been having at the committee for over a year, I know that earlier we had proposed amendments that would attempt to insert a hard line setback, and through seemingly, the council's understanding of what was being requested by stakeholders, we've ended up with a recognition that folks want to allow for modifications and repairs of facilities that are operating under a current power purchase agreement. So understanding that and the concerns that I've shared with the community as well about how a hard line is safer in the sense that we don't want to have a non-conforming use approved in perpetuity into the future when the legal purpose of a non-conforming use is to be phased out over time. And so, we fleshed out the discussion of whether we should look at setting a shorter hard line than what's currently proposed, or go forward with trying to, adjust the language in what our colleagues have requested in terms of allowing for these modifications and repairs of current projects without allowing for new projects. And so since we've landed on allowing for modifications and repairs, we appreciate the one-to-one setback being put in, which simply means that projects that do make the repairs and modifications would still have to adhere to that one-to-one. So there's a carved out language in Chair's amendment that would allow for the repairs and the maintenance, because when something is operating as a non-conforming use, generally you can't exceed that non-conformity. And so I understand where Chair has gone with it. I appreciate the one-to-one being incorporated. I share the concerns of the power purchase agreement potentially being interpreted as allowing the facility to operate in perpetuity or as long as the PUC allows. I understand and have shared with the community that I don't have 100% comfort with going down this path of trying to dictate and, modify the language around getting around the nonconformity, because I think that it creates some uncertainty, right? Once something is allowed as a nonconformity, we don't dictate or control what the PUC does. And so how they apply a non-conforming use under city law and incorporate that into their PPA is up to them. And so that's why my preference was for a hard line, but understand where we've landed and appreciate the one-to-one being incorporated.
Thank you. DPP, do you have any comments on the amendments to the large wind energy general use?
We support the council's policy choices and are interested in making sure that there's a certain amount of flexibility built in for maintenance of these existing facilities. We feel that the proposed amendments are reasonable and allow for that maintenance.
Members, any other questions on this subject matter? Councilmember Tupola.
Yeah, thank you. Either for you, Chair, or for DPP. Just some clearer questions, because definitely I've been affected by this because of family and friends that were involved in Cook, but also AES is in my district, and we are, have discussed turbines, whether or not we should or shouldn't in Makakilo, which I'm glad it's not. But for clarity, I'm just going to ask real simple questions if we can get real simple answers. What in the world does one-to-one mean? Can you just state real clearly?
For every foot up, there's 1 foot away from the property line.
And that one-to-one is the 10 times the height or the 1.25? No? Yes?
No. My understanding of the draft language is that there are 2 setbacks. There's the one-to-one, which is actually what we have right now. And then there's this 1.25 mile or 10 times the height. So the one-to-one is from the property line, right, running at a up 1 over 1, and then the 1.25 is from dwellings or other uses, off-site things.
And so which one applies to which situation?
Both would apply in all situations except for existing facilities, in which case, if this were adopted as described, only the one-to-one would continue to apply.
Because
Because subparagraph 2 is being excluded by the paragraph after.
So you're saying that one-to-one, which, to be honest, is like around 500 something feet, because I think the Pu'umakani ones are 568 feet. They're 568 feet tall. So you're saying that 568 for the ones that are existing.
Right.
And that's only until their agreement, power purchase agreement is up, correct?
Yes.
And the word continuous and uninterrupted doesn't grandfather them in, meaning extend them, or it does?
I read that to mean that if it's extended and it never stops, that they could continue.
So the way you read it is if the power purchase agreement is renewed, then they stay at the 568 feet.
Not renewed versus extended, is there a difference?
I hear what you're saying.
Yeah.
Maybe I just used a new word. If they get an extension, we'll just use that word.
It seems like the operative here is that it doesn't stop. As long as it is continuous, then they could continue.
So at the end, so I guess this would be more of like a HECO question than whether or not they're going to continue that. The main concern people have is that if we're writing something that continues to allow for these to stay up in Kahuku, that's what we're against. So does this suffice that? Does this address that, or no?
I think that is where we are taking policy direction from the council members. I think that this splits the difference here. It allows for continuous use of existing infrastructure that will involve, that will involve likely some minor height increases for maintenance purposes, the component replacement kind of things. But what it doesn't do is allow for major expansions or new facilities.
I understand that, but the way we wrote this right now, if it comes to an extension, does it stay there? That's it. That's all I want to know.
Yes, I think so, yes.
That is unfortunate. I do think that that's the whole purpose of us writing this, is that the community was hoping that somehow we would write something that would give them that 1.25 away from the houses that are in Kahuku, not the houses that are in the future, the houses that are there right now. Like that's kind of what the whole purpose of this was. So I feel like we just wrote something that just left them there, which was not my position. I don't know what everyone else's position is. So I guess my last question is, this 575 feet, how did we come up with that number? If Pu'umakani is at 568, how do we go to 575? Just because they need like 7 more feet?
I think that's the existing, that's the existing maximum height.
On what? On the permit?
In the land use ordinance.
In the land use ordinance.
Oh, that is the tallest existing wind turbine. So it would allow to extend up to the maximum height of an existing wind turbine. But also the language at the end about only allowing minor modifications is critical. The department, DPP, would review any request to do component replacement and would have to determine if their request is minor or may have other impacts that have not been addressed and therefore needs to be reviewed as a new CUP, which would effectively end their ability to repair and expand.
Understood.
Yeah.
So a new CUP would only be required if it was major.
Yes.
Understood. Thank you, Chair. Thank you, DPP.
Any other questions? Thank you. I'm sorry, Councilmember Wire.
Thank you, Chair. And just coming back to just so we all understand are on the same page, when we're talking about the modifications that are allowed or the repairs, so if they're making repairs on turbines under this condition, any turbines that fall within the 1-to-1, is it your understanding that they wouldn't be allowed to make modifications or repairs to those?
They wouldn't be able to expand it anyway.
Expand it, so I mean, they could continue operating it. But if they're coming in to put on bigger blades on, all the different ones, they wouldn't be able to do that on the closer ones.
They would not be able to expand if they are already within that 1-to-1 setback.
Okay.
Yep.
Is there language that would achieve, and I think Councilmember Tupola alluded to this about, if we're trying to ensure that we're not creating a perpetual non-conforming use. Is there language that could achieve that in the LUO, given the already granted conditional use permits and given how non-conforming use standards operate?
I don't believe that this language grants perpetual indefinite. What it does is, if there's an extension, if there's a continuation of the power purchase agreement, then they could continue. But I never got the sense that that was, one, an automatic guarantee, or two, even something that PUC or HECO was deliberating. And this, I was not part of these conversations for drafting this language, I think, but my understanding was that it would be smaller term extensions of time to kind of extract the last bits of energy out of these facilities. But some of the others may have more to say about that, other council members.
Okay, would they need to come back? And when I say they, I mean the wind generating facilities need to come back for additional conditional use permits for new PPAs or extensions or amendments?
It says, during the term of the facility's continuous and uninterrupted power purchase agreement approved by. So the facility's continuous and uninterrupted power purchase agreement is singular. So if that power purchase agreement is extended, that is still the same one. If they need a brand new one, I would say that's a new power purchase agreement. They would need a new cup at that point.
I guess I mean under the current law. So you're saying if we modify this, it would adjust the CUP that they currently have and the terms therein?
I'm sorry, maybe I don't understand. Could you rephrase it?
Yeah, so does the current permit they have expiration date?
I do not know if the current permit has an expiration date. I don't think that it does, though.
Okay, and so I guess that's my question, is that if we're saying we're passing this LUO, but then these facilities would be operating as a non-conforming use, and we're fleshing out, that's, I think, what Councilmember Tupola's point was too, was like we're trying not to create a perpetual non-conforming use. If it's operating within the vested rights, we'll call it, of a non-conforming use with the conditional use permit that's already been granted, and we're adjusting the language in the LUO, is there a way or language that could essentially achieve what Councilmember Tupola is asking or talking about in terms of requiring that they revisit the CUP or not be able to have this perpetual non-conforming use? Does that make more sense or clarify the question?
So practically speaking, I don't think that the existing wind turbines can operate without having to come in for minor modifications because of the narrowing of the market of the materials that they need. As we've heard over and over again, there just aren't the blades that they have anymore. They're all taller, they're all bigger. The component parts are going to be a little bit larger. So we would have to review against those new standards for those expansions, right? And that's what that provision to exempt the Part 2 would allow for that. It would allow for those minor modifications, as long as they're under a continuous and uninterrupted power purchase agreement. If the goal is to not allow them to do any of that and to end the cycle at the end of their power purchase agreement, I would think it would have been explicitly written that way.
Okay, mahalo. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, members, we're going to move on now to bed and breakfast homes and transient vacation units. If there's no further questions. With regard to commercial uses, Councilmember Tupola's Council Communication 283, 2024, line items 1 and 2, propose to amend the bed and breakfast home and transient vacation units use standards to allow for these types of short-term rentals on certain parcels. Zone A2, medium density apartment district next to the Ho'okale Resort in Eva Beach. The area is not yet developed. If you recall, at the committee's October meeting, we discussed allowing bed and breakfast home and transient vacation units in the Ho'okale area, with the intent that we would revisit this topic at today's hearing. Their proposal is to permit B&Bs and TVUs in the A2 zone parcels adjacent to the Ho'okale Resort, approximately 42 acres, rezoned as part of the Ho'okale Master Plan. The developer plans to build approximately 842 dwelling units on the A2 zone parcel. A total of 4,850 homes are planned for the area. 3,976 homes have already been constructed, and approximately 30 homes are currently under construction. Councilmember Tupola, would you like to explain your proposal for short-term rentals in this, in your council communication?
Yes, thank you, Chair. I appreciate the time and I appreciate the addition of this and the incorporation into Bill 64 at this time. So for this particular amendment, it is the A2 section adjacent to the actual resort area. It's in the resort area. I have A2 in Ko'olina as well that is allowed to have B&Bs. What we really want to do and what our policy stance has been for the past 4 years in the council is to not have TVUs in residential areas, but have them in resort areas. And so I think by adding this in here, it actually achieves that. It makes sure that it stays out of the residential area. This is in the EVA development plan. This is in the Oahu general plan. And there were many votes in the community about having this area be the resort area that is allowed to have not only a resort, but also have other accommodations adjacent to the resort. So I think those who came out today, especially all of those who came all the way out from Eva Beach, people have been like Mitch Tainanis, who's been in this fight from forever. And we all know what they had to go through to have what they have today, whether people liked it or didn't like it. Those votes took place decades ago, and we're just trying to finish this out so that the community can enjoy. From what I have seen from all the times that I've gone out to that area, we do have a cultural center. There is a family that takes care of this site. I am working to hopefully get some Clean Water Natural Lands funds to do that. So there is a nice balance of cultural aspects as well as that resort area and residential homes. So with that being said, I would appreciate the addition of this to Bill 64. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And members, I just want to, you heard from a lot of testifiers today. And again, just remind everyone that the Oahu General Plan identifies Ko'olina, Turtle Bay, Ho'okale, and Makaha Valley as secondary resort areas. The EVA Development Plan land use map identifies Ho'okale as a resort recreation area. Bed and breakfast homes and transient vacation units are already allowed in areas with A1 and A2 zoning in close proximity to the Ko'olina Resort and Turtle Bay Resort. So allowing for short-term rentals on the Ho'okale A2 zone parcel would also be consistent with what is being done in other secondary resort areas. The applicable unilateral agreement also does not contain any restrictions on short-term rentals. For the department, does the DPP have any comments about allowing for bed and breakfast homes and transient vacation units in the A2 zoning district contiguous to the Ho'okale Resort and Lagoon?
Yes. Housing is our most pressing issue here at the city, and we're wondering if this might be an opportunity to preserve some land for residents for long-term housing as opposed to short-term rentals. I think it's a discussion to be had, and I'm very curious to hear what the other council members think about it.
Is that your formal position? Are
Yes.
you, okay.
Can I make a comment at the?
Sure.
Is that the department's position? Because the department is the one that approved the EVA plan, the Oahu general plan. So in those plans, it stated that this was going to be what the resort areas are. We took votes and we have laws instated that this is going to be allowed in the resort area. So to have you come up here and say, hey, let's have a debate over this, is that appropriate at this time? I'm just asking because I feel like we've been in this fight for a very long time now.
The current zoning was also adopted to be A2, which does not allow short-term rentals as it is. So this would be a change to incorporate the current council's will over the last.
A2 doesn't allow it, or A2 in that area? Because I have A2 in Ko'olina that all allows it.
So A2 everywhere it doesn't allow it, with exceptions to those locations near resorts that have been recently called out and carved out for short-term rental use.
Yeah, so what I'm saying is that this is adjacent to the resort area. In the EVA development plan, this was included in it, just like the A2 was included in Ko'olina, and it is next to the resort. So it's not a resort, but it's next to it. I'm confused because I've already had discussions with DPP about this. So we just need to take one position here because we have other things to discuss.
Yes.
I had the whole community come out here. We looked through all the documents that DPP reviewed over the years. So I do believe that this is out of line to bring up a new discussion over stuff that we've already voted on as a community years ago.
Councilmember Tamola, if you don't mind, because you made it clear that it's our decision, so we're going to have a discussion right now, okay? So, so members, you know, I have thought about it, so I would like your manao. I'm inclined to move forward with incorporating this in Bill 64. You heard all of the testifiers. I did pledge to Councilmember Tapola that I did want it considered today, and I actually had it agendized separately because given the numbers, I just wanted to be transparent for everyone. I told her that I know that this has been a long time in coming. Councilmember Pines, you were here. Vice Chair Cordero had already worked with the community. And, you know, I had also initially thought, well, it's taking out the inventory. But if you heard today, what is wrong with separate from the hotels for residents in this area to be able to have their ohana avail themselves of short-term rentals. And I know we all care about long-term housing, but I guess I'm just saying I'm open right now. So we're up for discussion. And Vice Chair Cordero.
Thank you. First off, thank you, Chair, for the balance that you've provided, and also Councilmember Tapola for working with your community. As you mentioned, I have been a part of the conversation since they started the zoning and before they even built it. So I am in support of moving this forward and in support of what the community wants. Mahalo.
Any other questions or comments before I make my recommendation? Councilmember Shea.
So I thought our goal as a council was to address housing. So now we're switching from housing to short-term rentals?
No, we can do a multitude of things.
I've never talked about it.
Got it.
So I don't know. That's why I'm quiet. But isn't the objective of this council was to address workforce housing, affordable housing, et cetera?
It's actually our job to entertain all of the various options for housing. And legal short-term rentals are part of our inventory. So, okay, but it's...
For the locals. Short-term rentals are going to be for the locals?
They're going to be able to avail themselves. Okay, can I make a comment? Can I have any other comments? Wait, Councilmember Okimoto.
I was just curious, and I do want to respect the respective council member. This is your district and your community. I was just curious, how many units are we talking about?
842 units.
842 units? Okay. Because I kind of agree with, I want to respect everything that Councilmember Tapola has been doing, but I do feel like a lot of our discussion has been towards housing, so I'm just curious. But I'm going to defer to you, Chair Kiaina, but also Councilmember Tapola. But that has been a big part of the discussion.
Councilmember Wire?
I'm just listening to the discussion. No, I'll add, sorry. Yeah, I mean, I think I've been consistent that we don't want generally new short-term vacation rentals, particularly in our residential areas. For me, this isn't my district, and so I'll defer to the district council member and also acknowledge that in terms of the long-term planning and as a resort area, this was contemplated. And so while I agree that our priority is housing, I don't feel the need to particularly, create issues on this particular issue, given just the long-term planning. Mahalo, Chair.
Okay, and then I'm going to go to Vice Chair Cordero before I go back to Councilmember Tapola.
Thank you. I just want to add that exactly what we're going through right now. You mentioned the different uses, the land uses. In this area, a resort area, to include the availability of other types of, I guess, tourism and resorts is what we're just adding to the land use ordinance. And I think being able to just codify it here is what we're doing, and so that's why I'm in support of it.
Okay. Councilmember Tuola.
Yeah, thank you so much, everyone, and Councilmember Cordero for your thoughts. I do think that in the realm of us talking about resort areas, we are not cutting out a section of our neighborhood and throwing it in here. This was contemplated as the whole resort area, similarly to how Ko'olina was contemplated to have some housing, of which all the housing in Ko'olina is not used for TV use, but they are allowed to. So how many do they have? Maybe like between 50 and 100. So we have 842 houses we're talking about. Will every single one every day be a TVU? No, it won't. So I think allowing it to have that ability in the resort area was our policy stance as council members to make sure that we keep it within the resort area, not in the neighborhoods. But I also think that continuing to support the plans that we made in that area so that we can keep the resort area together is important. And if we want to talk about housing, I will say this, and Councilmember Say knows this, the large bulk of new housing is in my district. So I will say that we are doing lots of housing for locals in Kapolei, in Eva, on the west side. That's why there's so much traffic. Ho'opili, 11,000 homes. These guys, 13,000 homes. So in addition to the resort, they did have to build out homes, and those are done. So I think the totality of the picture is bigger than what we're talking about here today, because they actually built lots of homes before they actually built the resort area. This was last. So thank you very much for all of your support and for your questions.
Thank you so much. Members, I will be recommending that we accept line items 1 and 2 in Councilmember Tupola's Council Communications 283-2024 as modified in my response to Councilmember Tupola's proposed amendments in Council Communication 283-2024. We are going to move on to animal care. With regard to animal care, proposed amendments to the animal care standards were proposed by Councilmember Tupola in Council Communication 283-2024, line item 3, and Councilmember Say in Council Communication 285-2024, line item 2. My Council Communication 286-2024, line item 18, would incorporate many of Councilmembers Tupola and Say's proposed amendments by providing 2 options for animal care structures and facilities that keep animals overnight. Either be set back a minimum of 100 feet from any adjoining zoning lot in the residential, apartment, or apartment mixed-use zoning district, or be fully enclosed, soundproofed, and air-conditioned if it is within 100 feet from any adjoining zoning lot in the residential, apartment, or apartment mixed-use zoning district. Deleting requirements regarding securing animals and prohibiting the use of certain types of confinement, because these are operational and not land use requirements. Requiring that in the business mixed use and IMX1 zoning districts, major animal care must be soundproofed and air conditioned, and odors must not be detectable from common areas. By offering animal care facilities that keep animals overnight with 2 different options, either a 100-foot setback or a fully enclosed soundproofed and air conditioned facility, it addresses facilities that may be located on smaller zoning lots that are not able to satisfy the setback requirement. My Council Communication 286-2024, line item 28, would amend the definition of animal care to delete the phrase owned by other persons in the definition of animal care so that it would read, the provision of medical care, grooming, training, or boarding services to household pets. This would allow the keeping of stray or feral household pets and animal sanctuaries and shelters could fall under the animal care use. Councilmember Tupola and Councilmember Say, would you like to discuss your amendments for the animal care use? Councilmember Tupola first.
Thank you so much. I don't know if Liz could opine on this. I mainly worked with her on this. If you could just, I know it states it in here, and Councilmember Kia'aina incorporated this, but when we talked the other day, you said more or less for the cat people, it kind of does what it needs to do. Can you just vaguely describe what that is?
Sure. Good morning, Chair and committee members. I'm Elizabeth Krieger with the Department of Planning and Permitting. The main change that really helps, I think, the idea of having a cat sanctuary is taking out the clause that says that the animals that are being cared for are owned by others. So both a Humane Society style shelter or a cat sanctuary style location would have animals that are not necessarily owned at that moment, so that change in language helps.
Thank you so much. So if we have any further questions, we'll get together with the CAT people. I don't know if that suffices it, but thank you, Councilmember Kiernan, for incorporating that. Thank you, Liz.
Councilmember Say, did you have any comments about your animal care amendments?
No, it was very simple as far as the definition and what type of care will be part of.
Thank you. And does the department have any comments on the proposed amendments to the animal care use?
Alex Beatty, DPP again. And these amendments allow for animal care both on rural and urban environments, facilitating the care of household pets in convenient locations. So thank you.
Thank you so much. Members, I'm going to be moving on to INA-based education programs. With regard to the INA-based education programs, Councilmember Wyer's Council 284, line agriculture, conservation, or INA-based education programs that are accessory and secondary to the principal agricultural use of the zoning lot. My proposed amendments in Council Communication 286-2024 would address INA-based education facilities by including it in the nature-based recreation use. The definition of nature-based recreation includes reference to INA-based education facilities. A new definition of INA-based education facility has been added, and the nature-based recreation use standards now require a minor conditional use permit if the nature-based recreation use does not include overnight stays, and a major conditional use permit if overnight stays are involved. I would like to propose a verbal amendment to further amend the nature-based recreation standards in line 19 of my Council Communication 286-2024 to add the P2 zoning district to the zoning districts where the 51% requirement applies. So ROH section 21-5.770-8C1 will read as follows. In the P2 and Ag2 zoning districts, a minimum of 51% of the zoning lot area must be dedicated to crop production, livestock, and poultry keeping, or passive undeveloped recreational areas such as natural open space, forests, and trails, as evidenced by a farm plan or recreational plan that shows the area and percentage of the zoning lot to be an active agricultural use or passive undeveloped recreational use, and information about a farm, ranch, or recreational area resources, goals, business plan, and timeline to engage in crop production, livestock, and poultry keeping, or passive recreational purposes. Before I call DPP, I guess Councilmember Wyer, I think we're on the same page, but did you want to talk about INA-based education, your proposal, or?
No, I think we're on the same page. I'm just digesting and looking back through the amendments to the nature-based recreation standards.
Yes, and as many of you know, this wasn't an easy subject matter to deal with, and because of the late consideration of the subject matter, I had the stakeholders meet directly the Department of Planning and Permitting to make sure that we could be aligned with the appropriate verbiage. And so a lot of time was spent on this with the Kamehameha Schools, our office, as well as the Department of Planning and Permitting, taking into account your amendments as well.
Mahalo.
For the department, I know that you guys have been in discussions, but I just wanted to make sure that you were in agreement with this approach to include this section as a part of the nature-based recreation use.
Yes, we support this amendment.
Members, any other questions? Because if not, I'm going to move on to joint development. With regard to joint development, I'm recommending the following. If you recall, the committee's October meeting, we discussed the deletion of joint development from Land Use Ordinance Article 5 with the intent that we would revisit this topic at the committee's November meeting. As previously discussed, joint development is not really a land use, so it should probably not be listed as a use table entry or regulated in Land Use Ordinance Article 5. Essentially, joint development agreements are contracts that function as land use permits when approved by the city. There were issues and concerns with the existing LUO joint development provisions, including whether a conditional use permit was an effective mechanism for permitting joint development agreements. Also, joint developments essentially results in a de facto consolidation of land without considering the subdivision ordinance and its requirements, creating a loophole that may undermine the purpose of the subdivision ordinance, which is meant to ensure adequate streets, utilities, drainage, and vehicular access under predetermined standards. In addition, there have been problems with the layering of joint development agreements among various landowners, with related complications and disagreements when some owners enter agreements without the knowledge or consent of other involved owners. My proposed amendments add back the joint development entry in use table 21-5.1 and the joint development standards from existing land use ordinance section 21-5.380 with modifications to refer to adjacent zoning lots instead of adjacent subdivision lots, and to require that the proposed joint development agreement meet all requirements for issuance of a conditional use permit. My proposed amendments do not include the joint development standards from existing LUO section 21-5.380A because these problematic provisions apply to joint development in the Waikiki Special District or the Ala Moana Neighborhood Transit-Oriented Development Plan area, and allowed for the layering of joint development agreements among various landowners by allowing adjacent zoning lots under an initial joint development agreement to be jointly developed under a second joint development agreement. I still believe that joint development should be more appropriately included in Land Use Ordinance Article A, which covers optional development regulations and includes cluster housing and planned development housing. Joint development provisions should specifically include eligibility requirements, joint development agreement requirements, and a different approval process than a conditional use permit, which is an approval for a land use. However, at this time, rather than introduce an entirely new concept and approval process, since the DPP will have a lot to deal with in the implementing of all of the changes in the new Land Use Ordinance Article 5, and since the development industry and unions have indicated that joint development is a critical component in many types of projects being constructed, it may be better to keep the status quo with the intent of making the significant change from a land use in Article 5 to an optional development regulation in Article 8 sometime in the future and under a separate bill. For the department, do you agree with this approach to joint development at this time? And is the department open to addressing joint development at a later time under a separate bill?
Yes, we very much support reinserting something functional now for us to work with that wouldn't be a total change for both the department and for the public to learn how to use. And we, of course, may consider alternatives in the future as we address other sections of the LUO.
Thank you. Members, any other questions on joint development? Okay, we are going to move on to other. With regard to other amendments, I would like to propose a verbal amendment to the multi-unit dwelling standards in section 21-5.501C1 to remove the carve-out that would only allow multi-unit dwellings in the B1 and B2 zoning districts within the primary urban center development plan, EVA development plan, and Central Oahu Sustainable Communities Plan areas. Recent state law does not appear to allow the counties to carve out certain areas. My proposed amendments would delete provisions regarding special use permits approved by the DPP director, and instead would clarify that a zoning variance is required to allow a use that is not listed in the use table and is not reasonably related to another use listed in the use table. My proposed amendments would also revise the effective date provisions of Bill 64 to provide that the ordinance would take effect 270 days after its approval, except for certain specified provisions of the revised ordinances of Honolulu 2021 that are included in the ordinance. The delayed effective date is to allow the DPP director to adopt rules and procedures for implementation purposes. Certain specified sections of the revised ordinances of Honolulu 2021 will take effect upon approval of the ordinance for state law compliance purposes. I wanted to note that many of my supplemental amendments in Council Communication 290-2024 are cleanup amendments to correct and clarify provisions for purposes of accuracy, consistency, and clarity. Members, do you have any other questions before I make my recommendations? Councilmember Wire.
Just a quick question, and totally understand if I'm going to get scoldings for this, but I was wondering in the terms of the farm dwelling section, one thing that's come up in the community was just the potential to have an exemption for farm dwellings in existence at the time of the enactment of this ordinance. Just adding that extra line to the end for the 51% requirement, only because we have had Kupuna reach out and talk about their living situation, and just wanted to throw that out as an idea.
Thank you. And actually, DPP, because we've had this discussion and before, so I'm going to have to respectfully decline at this point.
Understood.
Do you mind?
Yeah, I will just vote with reservations today, and we'll continue to have conversations with the community.
Did you want to opine on that recommendation?
No, thank you.
Okay. Members, any other questions with regard to anything in the bill before I make my recommendations? The chair recommends that Bill 64, 2023, FD1, CD1 be amended to a CD2 version of the bill that, number one, incorporates all of the amendments listed in my Council Communication 286, 2024, except for line items 1 and 15, as further amended as we discussed, to amend the nature-based recreation standards in line item 19 to add the P2 zoning district to the zoning districts where the 51% requirement applies. Amend the 51% requirement in the farm dwelling standards in line 5 to provide that crop production and livestock and poultry keeping must be dedicated to, instead of occupy, a minimum of 51% of the zoning lot area suitable for crop production or livestock and poultry keeping, and also to provide that in lieu of the required farm plan, the agricultural dedication diagram used to obtain Honolulu real property tax exemption is also acceptable. Second, it incorporates all of the amendments listed in Council Communication 290, 2024, as further amended as we discussed, to amend the large wind energy generation standards in line item 18 to refer to a facility's continuous and uninterrupted power purchase agreement authorized by rule or order of, instead of approved by, the State Public Utilities Commission. Amend the multi-unit dwelling standards in section 21-5.501C1 to remove the carve-out that would only allow multi-unit dwellings in the B1 and B2 zoning districts within the primary urban center development plan, EVA development plan, and Central Oahu Sustainable Communities Plan areas. 3, in Councilmember Tupola's Council Communication 283, 2024, incorporates the following amendments relating to bed and breakfast homes and transit vacation units. Line item 1, as modified in my response communication to delete references to tax map key numbers relating to allowing short-term rentals in the A2 zoning districts contiguous to the Ho'okale Resort and Lagoon. Line item number 2, as modified in my response communication to make clarifying amendments relating to the addition of figure 5.4, depicting the A2 zoning district contiguous to the Ho'okale Resort and Lagoon. In Councilmember Wire's, fourth, in Councilmember Wire's Council Communication 284, 2024, incorporates line item number 8 as modified in my response communication to make clarifying amendments relating to the definition of home-based childcare. Line item number 2 as modified with my response communication to make clarifying amendments relating to the purpose and intent of the agricultural zoning districts. Any objections, noting the reservations of Councilmember Wire?
Reservations due to the large wind energy.
Okay, Councilmember Cordero, any other reservations? And so that, again, I just want to make clear, so reservations by Say, Cordero, and Wire. And so the bill has, noting those reservations, the bill has been amended to a CD2. The chair then recommends that Bill 64, 2023 FD1 CD2 be reported out of committee for passage on third reading. Any further discussion, any objections, any reservations? Reservations from council members Say, Cordero, and Wire. So ordered. Just wanted to mahalo everyone who participated in this process for all of your hard work on this bill. Again, the bill replaces, revises, and updates current use regulations, including the master use table, use standards, and use definitions that were adopted over 30 years ago. This long overdue revision has been a massive 3-year undertaking, and we are now approaching the finish line. Bill 64 has been carefully and methodically considered on a category-by-category basis, including residential uses in March 2023, commercial uses in May 2023, industrial uses in April 2024, public, civic, and institutional uses in June 2024, agricultural uses in August and September 2024, and miscellaneous uses in October 2024, and cleanup provisions to all use categories in November 2024. For each use, the committee took testimony from the public, advocacy and nonprofit organization, landowners, educational institutions, and industry groups, as well as the city administration and relevant agencies. We have all tried our best to craft sound, meaningful, reasonable, appropriate, and practical laws to govern the different types of land uses, their definitions and standards, and the zoning districts in which they are allowed. I believe we have arrived at a good balance. And while not everyone may be 100% in agreement with all portions of Bill 64, I think we can all be proud of the final version of this ordinance. Being that this is our last hearing for the year as well, I also just wanted to provide a special mahalo to all of the our committee members, first off, the stakeholders, the Department of Planning and Permitting, specifically Director Don Takeuchi Apuna, Elizabeth Krieger, Alex Beatty, Malin Simeon, from the Clerk's Office, Perlene Sotelo, Vicky Chung, from the Office of Council Service, Alden Lum, Andrew Sekene, Denise G., from the Office of Council Support Services, Lori Hiraoka, and from my office, Brianne Nuuhiva, Gloria Palma, and Kim Ryan. Members, we are gonna move on to our last agenda item, number 3, informational briefing, update by the Department of Planning and Permitting on its building permit process backlog. Members, please note that DPP submitted the updated information and it is available online as Departmental Communication 803. A copy was distributed to each of you. Before I call up the administration, I would like to take public testimony. Proceeding first with in-person testimony in the council chamber. Clerks, do we have any in-person testifiers for this item?
Chair, there are none.
Is there anyone else in the council chamber who would like to testify? Seeing none, we're proceeding on with remote testimony. Clerks, do we have any remote testifiers?
Chair, there are none.
Is there anyone else standing by remotely who would like to testify on this item? If not, we're going to move to the administration.
There. Okay, thank you, Director. Thank you, committee members,
Vice Chair Donna Puna, DPP. Thank you for this opportunity to provide an update on our building permit backlog. I think we're just waiting for that. I don't know if that, should I move on even though there's that? Okay. So, this is a slide that we've shared previously with the committee, and it shows the permit backlog over time. And so in our last time we shared this, it was maybe a few months ago, the backlog was still coming down, but the end of that line near the right side of the graph was above 10,000, and now we're below 10,000. I just wanted to remind you that we saw this major backlog in the last few years, and that was based on various factors, whether it was a lot of new regulations that were placed on building permits. There was COVID, we had the federal indictments, we had auditing going on, and also in 2023, we had a very large spike in building permit applications. We had 20,000 building permit applications for 2023. Prior to that, in the last few years, the average was between 16 and 18,000 applications. So 2023 was a year of just a lot of applications, and this year, 2024, we're on track to maybe be under that, around 16,000 or so applications. But in any case, what we understand is that the building permit backlog is coming down. Sorry, so then moving on to the next slide. I don't know if you can see that. This is a chart that we've often shared with the committee. As you can see, about 2 years ago at EMLA, actually was the first time we shared this data. And that's when the pre-screen, if you remember, was backlogged with 6 months wait time. And from that, we installed a bot, and we made some process changes, and we got rid of the pre-screen backlog, but then it shifted to the code review, the residential code review. And so for many months, it was 5 months or more than 6 months. But today, we can report that it's come down to an average of 9 days for the residential code review. And people are probably asking, does that mean if I put my residential permit in today, I'm gonna get it in 11 days? No, you will not. But this is a significant, and I'll talk about why it won't be 11 days, but this was the major part of our backlog, and people were complaining about, why is my application sitting in there for 6 months just for the residential review, the residential code review? But we've been able to manage that. And then looking at our commercial code review, we've also had a similar significant drop in review times. Again, it was, this pre-screen was a major issue. The pre-screen backlog then shifted to the commercial code review. Commercial code review includes electrical, mechanical, and building. Those are our engineers. But that has come down significantly as well, and it's at an average of 2 months. Or 63 days. And again, does that mean you're gonna get your commercial permit in 63 days? No, but this is a major reduction in just the commercial code review. And then this next slide is just another representation of this data on the permitting times, the review times for code review coming down. On the left side is the residential code review, and on the right is the commercial. So back in November 2022, when we were first reported, it was about 90 for residential, 180 for commercial. It went up as I talked about that spike and all the other factors that created more of a backlog. But today, 9 days and 60 days, respectively, for residential and commercial review. And so now, we are working so hard to bring it down on our side. We also have the technology upgrades and other process improvements. We know that on the other side, the applicant side, there's much that can be done on the applicant side to help move your permit through the process. So we want to talk about what the building permit process involves, because understanding what that means and how your permit is moving through the process is very important, and it's empowering to the applicant. So this slide shows that, you know, when you put your application in, it doesn't sit with DPP. It's actually half and half. It's an exchange between both the applicant and what they're doing, and then what DPP and other agencies are doing. So on the left side, you have the applicant's responsibilities, and on the right is DPP. You start at the top with the applicant, who submits the plans to DPP. It goes to DPP, and we review the plans and issue corrections. But also, as you see under that, we route the plans for review by other agencies, whether it's within DPP or external agencies. So for a typical residential permit, it'll come through DPP, it'll go through residential code review, that's the previous slides that we talked about, but most will go through stormwater quality, traffic review branch perhaps, and stormwater. And then other agencies if the project scope requires those other reviews. And then once it makes its way through DPP and all these other agencies, it goes back to the applicant for corrections. And then they send it back to DPP after they made the corrections, and DPP verifies that everything is good, and then we'll issue the permit. So this is the normal review, and we would call it one review cycle to go through all of this. However, if it goes back to the applicant and, if it comes back to DPP and the corrections are not made, it goes back through, you see the orange arrow goes back through, and then that becomes a subsequent review cycle. So you're multiplying the amount of time that you're going through the permit process if your application, if your design professional is unable to make the corrections that are required by DPP and all these other agencies. So on average, applicants go through maybe 1 to 3 review cycles, one obviously being the best. And then we have some that are 4 or more review cycles, and that's when you get a little concerned, and that's when you might want to question your design professional, like what's going on, why is it cycling, why aren't you answering or providing the corrections that are requested? And that can help move it along, or that can kind of be the, you know, your eyes and ears are on the project and you understand what's going on. And then also that, so just quality of plans coming in and responsiveness to any comments and corrections, and the completeness of the plans are very important. You don't want your design professional putting in plans that are only 80% or 50% done. You want 100% so that DPP and the other agencies can go through it, make their comments on a complete project, and hopefully get everything right and issue the permit. This next slide gives you an idea about where your permit is. So if it's not in residential code for 9 days, this is a snapshot in time of where it might be. If we have 8,991 residential permits pending or in process, this shows where the permits are. And so 75% are with the applicant. They're back on the left side in the orange column, whereas we also have 1,200 or so in stormwater. Stormwater is separate from residential code, but it is within DPP. We have a backlog there, which we are working on, and I think right now it's an average of 3 weeks with stormwater. So for residential, you might have 9 days with residential code, and then you tack on 3 weeks for the stormwater. But it's also could be back with your design professional. So again, this just shows you, you know, most of these permits are with the applicant. The backlog may have shifted to the applicants and the design professionals, but that's where it is. So it's not always with DPP. It could be in other agencies, but most likely it might be with the applicant. Go ahead. And this is just another representation to show you the majority of the applications are with the applicant and where they are with other agencies. So understanding where the process that DPP has for permits and where the permit could be, we have other tools that have come along through our recent E-Plans upgrade that better equip owners and applicants, design professionals to understand the process, where the permit is, and what's going on. This is the big black box, and we're taking off the lid and exposing exactly where the permit is. So the E-Plans upgrade has many new functions, but some of these listed here is you can look at project status, step-by-step tasks instructions are provided, learn how instructional videos, and applicants can review comment markups dynamically. And most importantly today, the applicants can invite project team members, and we encourage owners of these projects to have their consultant or their contractor make them a project team member so they can see everything in E-Plans about what's going on. And I have a few really quick videos that show the functionality of E-Plans. So this one shows you how you can check status on a project. And so you go into E-Plans and you pick your project. It's very simple, and it shows you some stats about it being with a jurisdiction, which is the agencies, versus with the applicant. And it'll provide a report that shows you exactly the number of hours and the dates within which it's with the different agencies or with the applicant for how many days and minutes and the task that they were working on. So that's a great way to look at what's going on exactly with your permit. And then this video shows you how you can review the comments that are being made by the various agencies. So again, you click on that application and you can go in, and these are pre-screened comments for this project, where you can look at the actual comments made by DPP. And if you're an owner, you'll have read-only access, but this shows you how the design professional would respond to the comment and say, you know, the question is it the right size of the plans? And then they would respond on the right in the yellow, and then they would go down and certify that they have addressed the comments to the best of their abilities and to code, et cetera. So they submit it, goes back to DPP or the other agencies to make sure that the comments were addressed. And then this last video is really important for owners. They should have their consultant or the applicant add them as a team member, and it's really easy. They just go in and they put their name, the owner's name and email, and then they become a team member, and they can log into E-Plans and check all of this information and a lot more about their permit. We ask that the applicant add the owner. When Clarity, the new software comes on, it'll automatically add the owners, so they'll have automatic access. But for now, this is the process that we're asking, but very important because this is the way that, all of us are asked, where's my permit? And this is how they can really get into the details about where their permit is, who's holding it up, whether it's DPP or their design professional or another agency, and they can call those people directly and say what's going on, or they can look at the comments and really understand what's happening with their permit. And so to ensure optimum building permit processing, it's just knowing all of these things, knowing what the process is. It's not just stuck with DPP. It could be with another agency or with their design professional. So know the different roles and process. Get involved, be a project team member so you can read the comments and view the status of your permit. And number 3, you hopefully aren't going to let your project cycle. So you want your design professional to provide quality plans and to really address all the comments, so it'll only cycle once. That'll be the fastest way to get your permit. So with that, I thank you for allowing us to provide this update, and we're available for any questions.
Thank you, Director. You and your team deserve a big round of applause.
Thank you.
And because we haven't had a hearing for a while on this, and I know we still have a budget hearing at 1 o'clock, and so we're going to be coming over to DPP to personally thank a lot of the staff who played a big role on this. So thank you so much. Members, any questions to the director? Vice Chair Cordero.
Thank you. Thank you, Director. Thank you very much for the update. And we're very excited about what the data shows, all your hard work to do this. And for that video, is this a video that is provided to all the applicants?
We are going to post it on our website, and we will probably have it in some of the e-plans emails so that it's very accessible.
Thank you. That would be very helpful. Thank you, Chair.
Councilmember Okimoto.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Director Apuna. I had a quick question, and maybe this is just me. When you said that the numbers don't mean you get it within that certain amount of time, what does it mean then? If the 9 days is not how soon it is from when they bring it into when they receive it, what do the numbers mean?
So it means for a typical single-family building permit, it's going to take 9 days on average for the residential code portion of the building permit review. But then there's other reviews, whether it's the stormwater quality or HFD. It just depends on the project scope and what the requirements are, the reviews required. So you would have 9 days on average, and then you tack on like stormwater quality, which might be 3 weeks, and then HFD, which might be a week. So it extends out to, whatever that is, depending on those reviews. But the residential code review in itself was a major, that was like the longest wait, but we've brought it down.
Thank you for explaining that. So I'm a visual person, is it kind of like a la carte? If you have a residential permit, they see, okay, this part of it would take this long, and if you tack on these other things, is that what that means? And so they have an idea in the end of approximately how long total it would take for whatever type of reviews they have to go through?
Yeah, I think we could do that. For a typical single-family new build, we could probably give an idea. I mean, everything, it's an average. There's some outliers on both ends, but yeah, there's typically for a single-family new build, you'd have to go through stormwater, wastewater, and residential, obviously. But then, yeah, I think we can get an idea based on, we do have some of the timing, the averages for the other agencies, and we're working with some of those. Board of Water Supply, I know that they are under resource, so we're working with them, but each part counts, so we're trying to work with everyone to make sure that they can bring their times down.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for explaining. Thank you, Chair.
Members, any other questions? So please extend our appreciation also to the mayor because this has been a priority for the administration. And fortunately, in concert with the City Council, who provided a lot of the funding for the tools for you to be able to achieve this, this is truly a collaborative effort between the administration and the City Council to actually address one of the highest priorities for the residents of Oahu. Thank you. We're just going to go on to the next agenda item, which is an update by the Department of Planning and Permitting on development and sustainable communities plan schedule and transient-oriented development plans and zoning standards status. Members, please note that DPP submitted the updated information on the development sustainable communities plan and watershed management plan schedule, and it is available online as Departmental Communication 797-2024. A copy of the schedule was distributed to each of you. The department also submitted updated information on the transient-oriented development plans and zoning status, and it is available online as Departmental Communication 798-2024. A copy was also distributed to each of you. Before I call up the administration, I'd like to take public testimony. Proceeding first in in-person testimony in the council chamber. Clerks, do we have any in-person testifiers for this item?
Chair, there are none.
Is there anyone else in the council chamber who would like to testify? Seeing none, proceeding on with remote testimony. Clerks, do we have any remote testifiers for this item or standing by?
Chair, there are none.
Thank you. Director?
Thank you. We have staff here for any questions, but we defer to the information that was provided.
Members, any other questions? Vice Chair Cordero.
Thank you. I know that a lot of the plans are pending dates, but I think it would be great, especially with the plans that we've adopted, to know when the next steps are. So having concrete dates would be fantastic.
Okay.
So hopefully we can figure that out. Thank you.
Thank you. Do you have any comments? Dina Wong, our chief planner, can comment on that. Thank you.
Hi, this is Dina Wong, chief planner for DPP's planning division. For the plans that have already been adopted, what we do is every budget cycle, we request funding in our operating budget for the next update. So coming up next will be an update of the EVA development plan, which was last fully updated in 2013. It was amended for housekeeping purposes in 2020. So that will be the next one underway. And then we have a couple of other ones that are in process. North Shore and Waianae are in-house right now and will be coming out with a public review draft. We're looking sometime in the spring of next year.
Okay, thank you. And also for the TOD plans, as it relates to maps and drafting, I would like to I guess get an update about that as well.
Oh, okay.
Thank you. And it can be submitted to us as a communication so that we have something concrete. So if you just commit to doing that, that would be great.
Sure, yeah. Tim Streitz, Acting TOD Administrator with DPP. So just as you probably noticed on the report, there's a lot of TBD or to be determined dates aside from what we're currently working on, which is East Kapolei. Zone change package right now. The reason for that was because we just felt it would be too unreliable to put dates for the other pending station area rezonings. It would just, there's a lot of factors that go into it, primarily being just the staff shortage we have right now. So, you know, we could provide that if that's what you desire. They would just be years out and very, I guess, like fluctuating.
I understand that, and I think that if it's a live document and that's updated every so often, that's perfectly fine. It's just our communities want to know the timeline. Thank you.
Okay, sure.
Members, any other question? If not, there being no further business, this meeting is adjourned. Thank you.